welcome to episode 122 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills, and I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week, we looked at our second batch of games from issue 48 of Zap 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and we're doing a double, or was it even a triple take at Daenerys? We were doubling over in Pain at Dynamic Duo, or DeVoe, and diving into a fantastic voyage in DNA Warrior. This week, we conclude our look at the games in April 1989, along with what was lighting up our TV and cinema screens that month. Graham, tell us a tale of high adventure. Or just let us know what games we have this week.
In this exciting episode, where we investigate the auditory impact of shouting snack-hungry bongo-playing infants. We grab our ointments and applicators and head into the rotatey world of the rock-blasting spaceship in the popcorny Blasteroids, jump on a mini-flying saucer and float around looking for stuff to reposition in the somewhat pointless Zone Trooper, and head to a haunted house and walk around picking up more pointless crap in the ear-destroying world of the Munsters. Wow, it turns out that absolutely no amount of calm rebuttal will thwart the increasing volume of a bongo-playing child asking for a chocolate bar. Who knew? While we work out what to do next, we grab our Acme earthquake pills and punch hammers as we run around Los Angeles looking for some decent animators in the crappy Who Framed Roger Rabbit, take on the challenging angular ball-in-hole shenanigans of a fun though expensive tiny golf game in Mini-Putt, thump our heavy feet around more alien landscapes looking for objects and a rationale in the thuddy Orion, before settling into the cockpit of a Formula One car, preparing ourselves for the races and then blasting around some famous racetracks in the brilliant Grand Prix Circuit. Like April showers and grey skies, the average to crappy games are frequent, unwanted, and they dampen the spirits. Occasionally, though, just occasionally, there is a break in the clouds, and there you will find a sunbeam.
What is best in life? It's not playing these bloody games. That's what's not best. That's what's best in life.
Some of them, they left them on the battlefield. And who found them? Men. Just men.
Your games live underneath them.
Just two men, in fact.
And they found them and they played them and they were not happy. They really weren't. If, just as a heads up, if my voice sounds croakier, more sultry and than normal, because I've got a cold. Typical. Hottest week of the year. Yeah. Have a cold. Have heat a cold.
Heat cold.
Heat cold. Yeah, I have. I also had the pleasure of watching, as we just discussed, the new Indiana Jones film this week.
Oh, The Dial of Destiny. Destiny.
No,
every time I say that word in this house. Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah, it wasn't that good, was it?
No, there's a brutal shooting in it, which sort of haunts me a bit, I have to say. But
it's a bit dark, that bit.
It's a bit mean. It's a bit mean.
It is, but it's not a. It's a very flat film. I thought very flat.
Yeah, very flat.
Lacks any kind of sort of punch.
Indiana Jones and the massive yawning of boring.
Well, he's old.
Well, he's all right in it, considering
you could do
he's
a supercut sort of thing where you just cut at the beginning where he wakes up and then he's in bed and then he wakes up at the end. You can't see that he wakes up at the end. But you might enjoy it or whatever.
Indiana Jones, watch it if you can.
If you can. See it. Yeah, it is what it is. If you wish to support us, I'm going to get this in at the beginning because there's probably stuff to do at the end. You can do that. We've got a Patreon. You can go to that. It's patreon.com/zapped to the past. And you can sign up there for £1 or for what is ever the equivalent of £4 odd for your local area. And that's great. You can come join the Discord, get the episodes early at the higher rate, all that kind of stuff. Ask us questions, all those kind of things. Come join us. There's a really nice little community going on Discord with high score challenges and things like that. When there's a suitable game, I didn't feel like making them play 4 soccer simulators. I'd have just been mean. That had just been mean, and I'm not mean to our patrons. I'm really not. Or you can give us a coffee at ko-fi.com/zapped to the past. It's up to you. Yeah, there we go. Let's get them out of the way at the front. And with that, should we get into some games? We have 7 to cover.
7 whole games.
7 whole games, yes. Should we get into them?
I think it's probably time, actually.
Let's do it then. Let's waste no more time.
Let's do it. Don't waste time.
Let's not. Let's waste no time. Should we waste time, Graham? I think we shouldn't.
Don't waste any more time. I haven't got a Dial of Destiny that we can use to just handily go back and create a space arse. So
yeah, a cloud arse.
A cloud arse.
It's the cloud anus. Quick, fly through the cloud anus. It'll take us back 2,000 years.
And how did nobody in that time write that down? What's that in the sky?
On this day, the Romans did attack. A dragon did appear from a cloud arse.
Archimedes, did you do that? No, it's nothing to do with me. I'm the mirrors and the fire sticks and all that.
Absolutely.
Nothing to do with
Oh,
me.
Eureka!
God, that's like ancient Greek humour and ancient Roman humour.
Absolutely.
Goodness.
That would have had them in hysterics in the bathhouse.
They would have been rolling around in their...
In the
Yes, they would.
togas and everything. Right, let's get into some games. Enough of that. To our first game this week. And our first game is Blasteroids. Blasteroids. Fresh from the arcade comes the home conversion of Blasteroids. Well, was vaguely fresh. What is Blasteroids, you may ask? Because I did, because I'd never heard of it. Well,
Sounds painful.
it does, yeah. It's not you need a one-fingered glove for this. Well, it's the third official sequel to the 1979 Atari arcade hit Asteroids. There was Asteroids Deluxe, which was released in 1981.
That does sound like it needs a cream.
It does, which added elements to the original. And then in 1982, we had Space Duel, which added two-player co-op play, or cooperative, or whatever, to the game, along with more elements as well. Finally, in 1987, we got Blasteroids, which changed the iconic vector visuals to animated, like kind of digitized visuals, that sort of that Atari kind of look, sprites and stuff like that. So it changed them into those kind of things. Anyway, the arcade game was designed by Atari, but the home conversions were taken care of via Tengen. Who were Tengen? I don't know if we've covered who were Tengen before. Maybe we have. I don't know. According to the wiki, by 1984, Atari Incorporated had been split into two distinct companies. I found this really weird because I didn't know this. Atari Corporation was responsible for computer and console games and hardware and owned the rights to the Atari brand for these domains. Atari Games was formed from Atari Inc.'s arcade division and were able to use the Atari name on arcade releases, but not on console or computer games. Weird.
Right.
Very weird. When Atari Games wanted to enter the console game market, it needed to create a whole new label. It didn't use the Atari name. And this new subsidiary was called Tengen, which in the Japanese nomenclature of the board game Go refers to the central point of the board. And Go was always where the original Atari name had come from as well, so they kept that tradition. So, let me get this straight. This was copyright of Atari Games and Tengen, published by ImageWorks, converted by Take Software, with coding by B. Pollock, graphics by Dave College, and music by Ben Daglish. There you go.
It was.
It was. So what exactly do we have here? Well, it's Asteroids. It's Asteroids with some fancy new trousers on by the looks of things. So when the game first loads, you get a nice logo for the game and some rather jolly but a bit out-of-place music from Ben Daglish. That music doesn't really fit. It's okay. It's a bit short, though. Really don't fit. Not all. There's some credits and some other logos bounce about. Press fire on either joystick, because you can play this one or two player. And that takes us to the second title screen. And this second title screen has the 4 warps for the game difficulty. But you need to press fire again in order to make your ship appear and allow you to choose a difficulty. Pressing fire on port 1 generates player 1, and your ship is near the easy warp start. Pressing fire on port 2 generates player 2, and your ship is near the medium warp start. And getting away from either of these warps is quite hard. It's dead hard to actually get to the others. You have to really wrestle, get away from them. So if you want to start on either the hard or expert warps, because there's 4, so there's easy, medium, hard, and expert. Get ready to turn your ship away as soon as you press fire, because you've got to kind of blast away quickly. You've got to be ready. It's already a tricky thing just to pick a difficulty level. Good Lord. Anyway, picking any of the warps gets you into the game, and as soon as we're out, we're in very recognizable Asteroids territory. Most of the screen is taken up with the play area, with the UI taking up a small portion at the top showing your score, whether you have any shield, and your energy bar. One thing not included is the number of lives you have left, which seems like an odd omission. It's like,
more than odd. Bloody annoying.
There's a bit of an oversight. It's like, I've lost count. Have I got extra lives? No one knows. It's a game of guessing. There's also another, and there's a lot of space on that UI. They could have just put lives in. Just put lives in.
Yes, they could.
There's another. I mean, that shield section is like so not unused. It's like, why is that just the lives? Anyway, there's another empty panel next to this for player 2. I'll come to the player 2 stuff in a bit, as you can play this with 2 players cooperatively and sort of counter-cooperatively, but you can play it together anyway. Come for a bit. For the most part, it's Asteroids. Your ship starts near the center of the screen. You're either red for player 1 or green for player 2. And you control it with left, or it could be the other way around, I can't remember. And you control it with left and right to rotate, up to thrust, fire to shoot, and down to change the ship type, which is a bit of an addition here. You've got 3 different types of ship types now. You've got the speeder, which is the quickest ship. You've got the fighter, which packs the most firepower. And you've got the warrior, which is the slowest but has the heaviest armor. The background is just black space. There's like the odd planet taking up some of it. So there's not much going on in the background. Asteroids float about, and you need to shoot them all as they split up into smaller chunks when shot. It's asteroids. Asteroids. Everyone knows asteroids. But it does have some new features to it beyond the different craft as well. There are different types of asteroids now that have different properties. Grey asteroids are the normal ones. Shoot them until they just crumble to dust and disappear. Red asteroids create crystals when they are destroyed, and you must fly over these to top up your energy, which depletes as you take hits or use your thrusters. So be careful of using overuse of your thrusters. And blue asteroids must be shot several times in order to make them pop and stop moving. They kind of grow bigger, like pop, pop, pop. They call them the popcorn asteroids. There are also egg asteroids, which release leeches when shot, which home in on you, and seeker asteroids, which fly towards you at high speed when they are first shot and must be shot several times in order to destroy them or they crash into you. Alongside these are other craft which beetle about, and shooting these often releases a power-up which you can collect. These can be shields, blasters, which provide double shots, extra shot power, a rip star, which makes you spin wildly and spew out bullets, extra fuel capacity, a booster to increase your speed, a crystal magnet to hoover up floating crystals, and a cloak to make you invisible to the enemies. It's kind of handy. When you manage to clear a sector of all asteroid and alien craft, you are taken to the galactic map, which will either be 9 or 16 squares depending on the difficulty chosen. So it's either a 3x3 grid or a 4x4 grid. The first sector you complete is always the bottom left one. From here, you must choose where to go next. You do this by spinning your spaceship, where it will point at either up or in a diagonal or to the right or whatever, and you just choose which one you want to go next, because you can only go to one of the adjacent squares on the map, and in those squares it will show you what type of asteroids and aliens are also present, so you can kind of make a beeline for, if you want to avoid a certain type of enemy, you can kind of avoid them for the present time. So you select one. Once you select one, you press fire. You will warp there and need to kill everything to get back to the map and proceed across it. So it's essentially, you've got to clear all the sectors. And should you clear all the sectors, then, and only then, will you face off against Mukor. Was it Mukor? Mukor? Mukor. Mukor. How do you pronounce that? Mukor? Mukor? Mukor. He's the big, I suppose because he's a big green alien, so it sounds a bit like mucus. The big green alien that graces the cover of the game. Here you must fly around and shoot the stubby tentacles that surround Mukor. If you shoot them all, he will slink off. He's like, just flinks off screen. And you can proceed to the next difficulty and attempt to clear that one, and so on, and so on, and so on. It's an arcade game. So that's it. You can play 2-player. And the second player can join at any time by pressing fire on the other joystick. Nice touch. Always like that. You can fly about separately, so you can whiz about, shooting stuff independently, or you can join together. And you can do this if one of you is the warrior and one the speeder. And at that point, the speeder becomes a turret on top of the warrior as it moves about. So with control still being done by being each respective player, allowing double shooting but at much slower speed. So the one who's controlling the warrior will move about and they will sort of be moving about, but they're slower obviously because they're the warrior, but they can still shoot in the direction they are. The one who's a speeder on their back can spin about in all directions and shoot where they want. So you can get sort of double shot. That's kind of handy, kind of nice. So you got decent shields. You're a bit slower, but you've got double firepower. You work together. Nice. You can break out of this at any point by pulling. Anyone can pull down on the joystick because it'll change your craft type and then split you apart. So if you don't want to be part of it, you can just fly off on your own. It's up to you. Nice and simple, nice and easy, just like the arcade game. And it's carried over from the arcade game as well, so it's good to see that. And that's about it, really. I mean, everything that I could really see in the arcade game, having looked at it, is here. So they have actually converted, everything's there. So all the little nuances, all the little clips, the sort of galactic map, what you see on there. There's some bits and bobs, maybe, the presentation, the sound effects, but it's what it is. The controls themselves are decent enough. Each craft feels different. The speeder is really quick. The warrior is slow. The fighter is chunky, easy, good middle ground, easy to move about. So spinning left and right, thrusting a bit, it's all good. It's nice. The graphics are okay. That's the medium res. Some nice rotation on the asteroids as they float around. I thought it was all right. And the ship's they look okay. They're perfectly fine. They're decent representations of the arcade ones. The aliens are a bit chunky, whatever, but they work fine. All look good. It just looks like a version of the arcade game in medium C64 res. It's all easy to read. There's no slowdown that I noticed. Only a small bit of flicker at on the bottom of the UI, but it's not really anything worth writing home about. Generally, it works fine. The sounding game, there's an odd tune that I wasn't particularly enamored with. I thought it was a bit annoying. It's got the usual kind of sound effects that you expect in this, but the tune, like I said, does get on your nerves after a while. You know, it is what it is. It's one of the areas where the arcade game always will sound better because it's got that chunky arcade Atari bass noises.
Yes,
which, you know, Atari were always great had. As conversions go, like I said, everything from the arcade has been reproduced pretty well here, and it plays very like its arcade parent. The two-player mode is good to see. The cooperative mode is good to see. The galactic map, the front end, it's all there. It's not, you can't really... If someone said to you port Blasteroids to the C64, then I don't think you could have done much better job than what you've got here. So, at its heart, though, it is another Asteroids variant. So despite all the fancy new bells and whistles tacked on, and there is... You know, like I said, very little. Bells and whistles tacked on. There's very little variety from stage to stage. You're just shooting asteroids and various ones, and there's different. You know, but it's the same sort of thing. That's going to be where you're either going to fall off this or not. If you like asteroids and you want a decent version of it on the C64. Probably one of the best I've played. There might be some older version that came out ages ago, but I think this is actually a pretty decent version of Blasteroids, which is a version of Asteroids, so this is fine. But like I said, your mileage is certainly going to be measured in just how long you can be bothered flying around static stages, blasting rocks these days. It plays well, but it's Asteroids, and that's something you just cannot get away from no matter what you want to say about it. So it's a very good conversion of an Asteroids variant, and that's where your mileage is going to vary with it. I thought it was pretty good. I was playing it for a while, but I think I've played my fill of Asteroids over the years, and that's why I fell off it a little bit. What did you think?
Well, I certainly didn't like it as much as you. I thought this game's going to haunt me. That music, that god awful music in the in game, do 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 do. Drove me mad. I thought it would be a while before something topped Menace for the annoying drive it into your skull stakes of sound. And there we go, another one. Just repeating that endlessly over and over again. Do, 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 do. Oh, my Lord, I didn't like that. I thought the graphics were bitty. I didn't think they were very well realised. And obviously they're not going to look at the arcade, but there didn't even seem to be a really good attempt at trying to make them look good. They just looked a bit like badly drawn, naff things. Badly popcorn, slightly burned, actually, if that's what they're going for. And they kind of float and flip around. Okay, there's a few of them. I noticed some artifacting around the edges of some of those things as well. So when some of the characters are going over other things, you could see sort of character blocks around things and stuff like that. All right, limitations and all that, maybe. But I thought the spaceships, they just lacked a bit of get them. It's an arcade conversion, but it just lacked care and attention. You know, those oval spaceships that look like UFOs. I'm like, just come on, put a little bit into it, just a little bit. Don't just go right. We're going to convert this arcade. How do you think we should do it? Robo conversion system. I think we should make the spaceships look exactly the same, only slightly lower res. I think that's a good idea, robot. Let's go. You don't have to be that way, does it? A bit of artistic license thrown in. I don't know. Anyway, so that aside, I just thought, and this is more of a reflection of the game more than the game maker. I didn't like it because I thought it was just dull blasting asteroids.
It's
and
asteroids,
I've done that.
Yeah.
The extra weapons and all that didn't help earlier. Now I was just kind of floating about. I inadvertently switched on player 2 by accident. Couldn't get rid of that, so that was just hanging around like a bad smell. I blasted my way through the first levels. Do you know what was weird? Right, I accidentally switched it into 2-player mode by pressing whatever it did to trigger that. It was an accident. So then I had 2 spaceships. One that was on the screen just hanging around, and me. Now, it didn't really do anything, and other than, obviously, it didn't last very long because it wasn't moving around much. But when it came to when I got past the sort of shot all the meteors and went to the next step, because I think there was 8 levels to do on the first part, and then more after that. It switched so that the second player could choose out of the grid you can choose from which was the next level, which is really inconvenient when you've accidentally switched them on.
It depends on which one gets sucked into the transporter first.
Well, it was always going to be that one because it wasn't moving.
Yeah. So if that one gets sucked in first, then because you get a bonus and you get to choose as the person who gets, because it's like you have a little battle to get to the transporter first at the end of the stage when it's clear.
Okay. So it makes sense if you want to play it 2-player, I suppose. I didn't. But anyway, I made my way through, believe it or not, made it way through 8 levels of the same thing. 8 levels of the same boring crap I went through. And then I was confronted by space cabbage. A giant space cabbage.
I think you'll find that's Mucor. It's Mucor.
It was a bloody space cabbage. I'm like, all 8 levels of repetitive, brain-damaging nonsense to get confronted by a giant space cabbage. I'm like, whatever. Anyway, I killed the space cabbage by shooting off its leaves. And what did I get as a reward? You now have 16 levels. And they're all the bloody same. I'm like, more of that? No, thanks. No. And I guess that, if that's your thing, that's your bag. It's an old arcade and all that, fine. But I couldn't take any more of that music. I couldn't do it. And I know it's Ben Daglish and Ben's done some amazing stuff. This is not his finest moment. The main tune of that is 33 seconds. And the in-game is 1:08. And it's 1:08 of the same thing over and over again. And, oh, no. I hated this game. And I think I hated it not because it's a bad game necessarily, but just because it's a dull game, really. And that's always going to be its curse, isn't it? And and I have to be honest, I never liked Asteroids either. So this is more me really than the game.
No, that's fair enough.
Because I never got on with it. I never liked all the zipping about and all I just don't like it. I don't like it. So there you go. And this was £10, and I think that's a little bit high.
Arcade, it's the arcade conversion tax.
I get it, but this isn't like a new license or anything. This is ancient, and also 83%. Come on, this is 83%. No way in hell. No, I mean I get it. It's not a terrible conversion, but it's not an 83% game. If it was $1.99 or $2.99, maybe it would warrant a higher percentage. But I'd have been slapping this around the 50s. It's nothing special. So there you go. That's me. But you liked it more than I did. But I just don't. I don't really like Blasteroids, Asteroids Deluxe, whatever you want to call them. It's never been my thing.
I wasn't a huge fan of it. I got a bit of time with it. Went, yeah, it's all right. See what it's doing. I think it's an okay version of that arcade game, which I went and had a look at. I went, yeah, it's that, and it played it, and I went, it plays pretty much the same, and it's Asteroids, and I'm a bit bored of Asteroids.
But space cabbage. No.
It's the listrous lettuce. I think you'll find.
It looked like a massive angry sprout. I was like, what? I fought through levels and levels of nonsense and guff to get to that. Shooting at those annoying popcorn and asteroid things. Oh.
I know how I felt at the end of Halo 2.
Those wounds run pretty deep.
Yeah. All that time for Audrey 2.
Yeah, exactly. At least you want a space cabbage.
True.
It's the modern equivalent, I get you, but...
yeah, true. Anyway, there you go. That's Blasteroids. Might need a glove for that. Let's move on. We've got 2 more games in this section, and I'm sure they're going to be ace. Now, Graham, it's over to you for our next one. This is Zone Trooper.
It is Zone Trooper, this, isn't it? Good old Zone Trooper. Now, this particular one is published by... Now, there's a bit of weirdness about this whole thing. This whole thing took me down a rabbit hole. A strange rabbit hole. So this particular version is $1.99. It was published by Cascade Games, coded by George Wright, and the musician was Fred Gray, and it got 23% in Zapped, which isn't a very high score. Now, if you look into this a little bit, there was also an unreleased, or I couldn't find a version of this if it was released. It certainly wasn't reviewed in Zap at any point, so I don't think it ever got released by Ocean. But Ocean had the exact same game, but it was called Moonshadow. And it's on Lemon, so there is an entry for it, and you can download it as well. If you go to CSDB, there is a downloadable version of it.
Oh, is there? Oh, right.
No, it's exactly the same game, exactly the same as Zone Trooper. The only difference is it's got better music. It's created by the same game guy, George Wright, but the music for that version is Wally Beban, and the music's a lot better. It's just all a bit odd, isn't it? All a bit odd.
That's very odd.
I don't know why or where or how, and then that led me down a bit of a weird path, and I'll go down this because there's not a lot to the game, really. So Zone Trooper was essentially a game made for the Sinclair Spectrum, originally, by some of the founding members of DMA Design. How mad is that? So this is Dave Jones, not Davy Jones, no, we're not that.
It's not
Dave Jones. Or has he? Russell K, not Russell Kane. Russell K. I've all got, they're almost, aren't they? They're Aldi brands. You've got to be careful with them.
There's Robert De Biro.
I really want there to be a Robert De Biro now.
He just bakes cakes.
He just bakes all the cakes. Mr. De Biro. There's Steve Hammond and, of course, Mike Daly with 2 L's. I have to make that because I made a point of writing that for some reason. So these guys were all members of the Kingsway Amateur Computer Club in Dundee. That is CAC. That's what it was called. When Mike started going along to the club sometime in 1984, Steve, Russell and Dave had already been there for about a year. I'm assuming they were let home at some point. Mike, who was 14 at this point, had been persuaded to go by one of his friends to this particular Computer Club. At this point, he'd also started or had begun or created a breakout clone for the Plus for C16 called Freakout, which was never released. Now, why do I mention all this? Well, while the C64 game is credited to George Wright, the Spectrum game of Zone Trooper was created by Russell Kay and Dave Jones under the original title of Moonshadow. It all gets very confusing, doesn't it? So at a certain point, Dave Jones left Russell to finish Moonshadow as he wanted to continue the development of his game with no name, which was a Nemesis clone, which was later, believe it or not, became Menace. Can't escape it, can we? And that was, of course, released by Psygnosis on the Amiga and the Atari ST, which was the first official DMA design game. DMA design, of course, go on to do GTA and Blood Money and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I have no idea. I have no idea how Moonshadow came to be released as Zone Trooper, or how it came to be released maybe by Ocean in 1988, or were not released, and now it's on budget. I don't know. I also have literally no idea why they have different music and musicians in the games, why there's Wally Beban music, and it's on SID Play as well. So if you go to the HV SIDs, Wally Beban's music for this game is right there. So it's clearly was done for this game, under Moonshadow.
Weird. And
I've no idea who George Wright is, because he's listed as the game programmer, but I can find no trace of that person. Anything to do with DMA design, any other games again. I'm guessing they didn't just go up to him and go, right, you're called George Wright, do this. I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, Dave Jones, Russell Kay, Steve Hammond, Matt Daly. This is essentially a very early DMA design game. How mad is that? Okay. So the instructions then for this are it was difficult to find a lot about this, I have to say, but the instructions that I've got, which was principally a paragraph from the Spectrum instructions, I think. You're the only crew member to be awoken from a suspended animation to correct the ship's course. It's too late. The ship crashes. Emergency. Always is an emergency. You must find the replacement plasma pods, which is bound to be a plosive nightmare on this microphone, to save comrades from destruction. This is Danger Zone, and you are the Zone Trooper. And then the 4 bits of information that I've got in terms of what you need to do. Battle your way through a multi-screen complex to find life-saving plasma pods. Avoid or destroy frenzied droids. Negotiate airlock and teleports. Infonet. Computer information system to help you. It's all getting a bit vague at this point, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So it's an early, late flick screen find and seek game. This my favorite kind of game. Oh,
it is.
Love them.
I know, much you love these.
Kind of a sci-fi Monty Mole, really, in a weird way. You need to navigate on your hover scooter around the fairly extensive map, looking for plasma pods. Good old plasma pods. You're always looking for stuff, aren't you, in these games? Always it keeps you occupied, isn't it?
Well, that's why it's a find and
find and seek, find and float, I guess, in this.
It is, yeah.
A quick check-in with the onboard computer, which is pushing to the right as soon as you start, and you'll get some key info, which you need. The ship's 6 plasma limiters have been damaged in the crash. You need to get replacement limiters and install them, but do this quickly, as without the limiters, the cores will leak, and it's a thermonuclear explosion, and adios muchacho. Quote a famous film. And so begins your adventure. Well, you control the Zone Trooper, who looks like a little guy sitting on a hover scooter. You move around with the joystick, with gravity pulling you down. Gravity pulls you back down in this game. So you know how this game is going to play out. Word is annoying. You can shoot at the enemies on each flip screen and fly about. Strewn around the extensive map are a series of objects you can pick up and move around. And guess what? You need to pick those up and move them around from location to gradually unlock the game and find the plasma pods. In addition to the surface of whatever planet you are on, there are little doorways that you can go into and explore the interiors. Here, the same logic applies, although there are now platforms and ladders you can navigate around. Now, weirdly, in this version, you enter these things and you remain on your hoverboard. In the Spectrum version, I'm pretty sure you go in there and you walk around. You don't actually, so I think. Which explains why you'd have ladders in there. Because if you did have ladders and you're on a let's not. No, I think it's inconvenient to go hovering around places. It's got to be more difficult than just walking. But there you go. Title screen of the game when it loads does look a tad dated. Indeed, it looked a bit more like an old BBC game, really, didn't it? All of this, minus the sort of garish colours. Big base relief Zone Trooper at the top. Some landscape from the game with the UI from the game with a few animated sprites spinning. New music, which was fab in the Wally Beban version, in that Mysterious Ocean one, is here replaced by a jolty and shrill piece from Fred Gray. Not one of his good ones, this. And some text slowly pops on the screen, letting you know you can start things with fire, and space pauses things. Joyport 2 only, I'm afraid, for this.
Oh, no.
Pressing fire starts the game. Exciting. The game window is probably the top 3/4 of the screen, with the UI carried over from the title screen at the bottom, which is not a thing I like.
You don't.
You have a thing about that, don't you?
Yeah, we don't.
It's principally text-based, bitty text-based, really. The score, high score, remaining time, and your status indicators with supplies of air, energy, and power All these run down, with the exception of the score, of course. As you go around, the game sees you flying between screens, essentially shooting at some of the enemies, avoiding others, and flying about and picking things up and moving them around. The background graphics are blocky, but colourful at least, and there is some attempt to create some styling and tone for the game. Being kind, really. It does, even in this basic way, look like a half-decent exploring game, and there is certainly a lot to explore. The map's quite big for this. However, this game also succumbs to one of the biggest design mistakes that we have seen over and over again through the life of this podcast: relentless spawning enemies. And on top of that, homing enemies that are difficult to shoot. Bloody annoying, that.
Yes.
Instantly makes me go, gah! When that happens. This turns exploration into avoidance and immediately changes the tonality of the game. Something of a pity, I feel, because from that minute forth, this game is starting to lose my interest. There isn't a lot more to it either. But it is only a couple of pounds. It was noted on the Lemon that the game does have an eerie quality to it, one of the people in the comments there. There are only sound effects in the game, so that might be right. Maybe that's right. You are the only thing looking around as it is, and aside from the constant enemy spawning, I suppose it is a pretty lonely type of game. It reminds me of the Nodes of Yes or Town of Loneliness, and we remarked on that way back when we talked about Nodes of Yes. These games, they do have a loneliness about them, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Oddly, some kind of wizard on a saucer periodically appeared when I was playing this as well. Don't know what that was all about. No idea what it was for, what he did.
You're not so lonely then.
So I don't know what happened with that. And I could find no proper instructions, like I said, outside of the basics. There may be some more elaboration to this, but I couldn't genuinely find any. This is by no means a great game. It's very dated, and it looks like it. The music from Fred Gray isn't very good. The Wally Bebber music is much better, and I'll go and seek that out if I were you. And while there is kind of a tonal peculiarity to it all, and maybe I like some of the backgrounds-ish, and the setting of the map is pretty extensive, in all fairness, £2. But the trouble is, the core of the game is wandering around, fighting gravity and relentless spawning enemies, which shifts the paradigm of the game into something dreary and annoying, which for £2 is still dreary and annoying, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't enjoy it because of that. It had some of the trimmings that I perhaps could have found more interesting, but lacked the proper design to follow any of those ideas through. It had nice scope, but it's not very fulfilling. Its price is the only saving grace here, and it's an interesting heritage, I suppose. But 23% harsh? I'm not sure. So I'm not so sure. Maybe a little bit. Maybe it's more of a 40%er. It's not a great game. It's not a crap game, but it's just, I think those relentless spawning enemies they just killed my enthusiasm. As soon as it started following me around, I'm like, I just can't be bothered with that. No, not for me, this one. But it is only £2, so at least you're only going to get £2 worth of, trauma from it. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's the version we were playing, but it kind of felt a bit unfinished to me. It felt a bit rough and a bit broken around the edges.
No, I think that's how it is.
There's I found lots of bugs and stuff, and text not appearing properly, and just graphic glitches and all over the place. And I don't know. I was like, okay. So yeah, I mean, you fly from screen to screen, you pick stuff up, you get bothered by aliens. It's one of them. It reminds me of those. It's a rubbish version of things like that. What's it? Not Exelon. What's the one? Starquake. Is it Starquake?
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
It's just one of them, but it's not very good. Or it also, in the way that you float around and everything moves around a bit. And I know it's not the same sort of thing, but I thought it reminded me a bit of Shogun as well. In the way that it presents, that kind of those kind of sprite styles. I don't know. So yeah, I did think the visuals, they're okay for what they were. They weren't annoying. I think BBC-esque. It looked a bit Amstrad-esque as well, I think. And obviously, it comes from there. Yeah. But the game's just really dull. It's just really dull and really annoying, because it's like, I'm just picking up objects and I've no idea what I'm supposed to do with them or move them about. You can only carry one. You pick one up and then suddenly you've lost your ability to shoot. God. No. So no, this didn't do anything for me. The review for this, and the Lemon said this is a re-release. Yeah, it said it in Zap as well.
Weird.
So I don't know with that Moonshadow one whether there's some weirdness going on, but it's never. I can't find sight nor sound of the other one. So God knows only what that is. I don't know. What I do know though, I just felt cumbersome to play and not very engaging after a while. It was just float around, shoot stuff, float around, change, blur. I think even for £2, it's a bit of a dud. It's just a boring game. It's just a boring, dull game to play. Yeah. And that's, give me it for free. And it's still boring. In fact, I did get it for free and it's still boring. So what can you say? It's boring. It's a boring game. Don't get me wrong. No problem. It's their first game, or they're doing something and they're learning and they're doing all this stuff, and they're so not knocking the people. But again, it's just one of them things like, do you need to release it? Do you? I don't know.
Don't.
No, you don't. So Zone Trooper is more of a no trooper for me. That's what I think. There we go. That's Zone Trooper, the weird tale of Zone Trooper that led to na 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 na.
It did. Na, 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 na. I'm glad that's replaced Blasteroids now in my
there you
recording.
go. Weird, isn't it, though, that they would go on and do Lemmings?
Yeah.
Everyone forgets that Dave Jones and that lot did Lemmings. Everyone thinks it's GTA and all that, but it's the same people did Lemmings. Yeah. They also did Blood Money, which I don't remember being any good.
Sea Menace.
Is it? Okay, just look it up in the dictionary. Sea Menace. No, 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 no.
Right.
Let's move along. We've still got a game left to cover in this section. We've still got one more. And that one, Graham, is do 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 do. Talking about loops of music that are going to annoy you.
Yes, I made note of that.
It's the Munsters, everyone's favourite, well, not so favourite, 1960s alternative sitcom. Anyway, so this is the Munsters, full price, £9.99 for this.
Wow.
Another license rears its head from the past as we, for some reason, get a game based on the Munsters. 1989. Don't understand. Yeah. Now, I tried to look into this and I tried to find, but all I could find is it's obviously been bought and reshown on BBC Two, but I remember this was being re-aired on Channel 4 in the 80s, around tea time. That's where I used to watch it, I'm pretty sure. It used to be like, because
but could have been.
I'm pretty sure there was something. Anyway, it was on in the 80s, because I remember watching it in the 80s. I don't know where it was. I thought it was Channel 4. I could be wrong. So maybe that explains why this game was made, because,
maybe.
I'm thinking they've got the Munsters on telly, and it's like, that we'll grab that license, because there's no way anyone's going to think to a night. I mean, no. So I can only wonder. God only knows. Anyway, it's the Munsters. What is the Munsters? To paraphrase the wiki, the Munsters was an American sitcom that ran from 1964 to 1966, which was actually the same time as the Addams Family was also on. Weirdly, they started within about 4 or 5 days of each other in September 1964, which is kind of weird. Because I was wondering which influenced the other. Turns out neither. They were influenced by other stuff, just standard, sitcom stuff. Depicting the Munsters depicted the home life of a family of benign monsters made up of Herman Munster, his vampire wife Lily, Grandpa, who was the aged vampire Count Dracula, their niece Marilyn, who was the normal one of the family, and their werewolf-like son Eddie. The family pet, innocuously named Spot, was a fire-breathing dragon. That's the Munsters. Each week they would get into various episodes, and it was very much in the role of weekly sitcoms at the time, only with that subversive angle in that they saw themselves as normal people then when they were clearly not, and everyone was like, "Hey!" when they saw them, but that was the running gag. And he'd do his joke, he'd do his laugh.
From Marilyn, was it? Marilyn,
the cousin was, all American sort of 60s sort of teenage girl, or young 20s. The rest obviously not. The show was eventually cancelled because Batman was too popular. That's what I read. There's something ironic about shows about ghouls being killed off by a bat, I think. Anyway, on to the game. This was published by Again. It's copyright of Tiger Developments. It was coded by Bill Cornt and Peter Hickinson. Graphics by Mark Edwards, and music, once again, by Ben Dalglish. Seems to be going for the Dave Whittaker Award this week of annoying repetitive loops. This coding team, this production team, apart from Ben Dalglish, I think, or maybe it was him, is the team that did Chubby Gristle. So I'm just going to leave that there.
Yeah, just leave that parked in there.
After an okay loading screen, we get the title screen. There's nothing to do here but wonder at the basic nature of it and why it only has some text and the name of the game and the Again logo on it. But then, across the middle comes Herman, running across, chased by a ghost. There he goes, Herman Munster. And also, at this point, as I've noted, the Munsters theme tune is playing in a loop that cannot be stopped. Will soon scratch itself across your brain. Never stops. Ever. Never, ever. It cannot be stopped. Do, 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 do. It's like, oh, God's sake, please stop. So there's nothing to do here. You press fire, gets you into the game. And I have to say, first impressions are not bad. We start the game as Lily in the bedroom, and she's a decent, a fairly well animated sprite, quite big. So this is a side-on flick screen. The backdrop is mostly black, kind of fits the game style, I suppose. It's spooky and whatever sort of thing, whatever. But it's got some objects like paintings on the wall and plants and stuff dotted around. It's okay. looks like a C64 game in lovely medium res. So at least it's, what I did like, it's not just been ported across to look like a Spectrum game. So it does look like a C64 game. And the main sprite, Lily, is actually all right, quite well animated and stuff. So it looks okay. However, it's here because it was quite hard finding instructions for this. They're not very hard to come across. I've managed to find some, but the instructions are, when they've made a game where you can't understand what to do, sort of thing, when the actual instructions are, please just do this. Just do this.
I thought that.
Because the game doesn't explain this in any way, shape, or form, and it's annoying. Because it's here, however, the frustration with the game's design will start to become apparent. Because I don't know who's designed this, but I hate them. I really do. I can't stand them. If you did design this, you need good talking to at the point in time, because there's nothing good about this. So the UI is at the top. It takes up the top third, and the game takes place in the lower 2/3. Where have we seen that Spectrum layout before?
No.
As I said, it's a flick screen adventure. You need to roam the house, and essentially it's a multi-part adventure where you've got to find the other members of the family, and eventually your goal is to rescue Marilyn, who's been kidnapped by Old Nick, in order to teach them, the Munsters, a lesson in ghoulology. Something. It kind of put me in mind of something like everyone's a Wally, stuff like that. The multi-character sort of thing where you're flicking about. Except you don't really flick about in this anyway, because you never will, because it's bloody annoying. Except it's a medium res rather than that Spectrum look. Anyway, most of the UI is taken up with the name of the game carved on a piece of wood. Just use your UI for something else.
Yeah,
we know what we're playing. The music tells us what we're playing constantly.
You can't escape it.
So atop this plank of wood is your score, for all reasons. On the left is a bottle that is your energy, and on the right is another bottle that is your spell power. Your energy is full to start off with, but the spell bottle is empty. To fill it, you just have to wait around for enemies to appear on the screen. With your basic controls, and it is basics, left and right to move, up and down to go up and down stairs, and fire to shoot a yellow ball. I don't know what it was. It's just a yellow ball. So you shoot and you kill these enemies as they appear. They home in on you. And as you do, your spell bottle will slowly fill up. You just have to stand there, just doing that. From that point, you can then decide to wander about the house, and you'll find various enemies that are floating about, blocking your way further, and you won't be able to kill them. And when you shoot at them, your spell bottle goes down, even though they can't kill them. So then you have to go back to one of these other rooms where the enemies respawn again, and just stand there waiting for them to come in and refill your bottle, and it takes time, and it's very boring. Now, the only way to kill these enemies that block your way is to find various objects scattered about the house. You won't know what objects are linked to which ones. It's just random, so you don't know. Be warned, though, because the thing is, contact with any of these enemies that you can't shoot will spell instant death. Pretty much instant death. Your energy just goes boop, done.
Yep.
And you're back to the title screen with you and back to the beginning. So if you've got 35, you might manage to get 35 dead. Done. No, you're done. The items, like I said, you have to collect are seemingly arbitrary. And it's literally a case of trial and error. As you find something, you try and shoot one of the enemies, see your spell power go down. You then got to go back, like I said, farm spell power again in an empty room to try again on another enemy. It's, oh my god, there's one enemy. You go out the first room, if you go down the stairs and go directly left, there's 3 like witchy type things that just come homing in on you. That you'll just kill you immediately. Dead. Oh my god. So frustrating. There's a zombie wandering around downstairs as well. Touch you dead. And there's one blocking dead. Dead. Everything's dead. There's no real logic to any of this. And whilst you're trying to figure out what to do and get on with it, like I said, the music will slowly be lowering the amount of functioning brain cells you have left. It never ends, and there's no sound effects at all that I heard. As noted, should you die, it's back to the title screen and starting all over again, and very soon you just will not want to bother with this. This is the very definition of annoying in every sense as far as I'm concerned. It is a rote game that is lengthened by making you stand in various places to farm energy, and then makes you do that again and again. The instructions do speak of later sections where you control Herman. I got out to the garden, and you wander across all the way across, and then as you're coming back, hordes of zombies come up. And I watched someone play. All you got to do is just hold down the fire button, and eventually just kill them all. It's like, this is just boring. It's just boring game design. It's just boring and annoying. Because if you don't shoot them all in time, you're dead. When you're back to the beginning, you have to do all those things again. Oh, just annoying. So yeah, there's sections where you supposedly control Herman and Grandpa and control the pet dragon, but I never got to these because the basic intro level is so frustrating to the point, like I said, of boredom and just dullness and frustration. I realised there's just better things to do with my life. Artificially inflating the length of your game by making the player stand in a room to slowly gain spell juice is not the way to engage them. Just put spell juice on. Let me find the artifacts, that I've got to kill them, make them work, or make them relevant. And then what's this spell nonsense? It's just rubbish because you don't actually fire anything different. If you filled up your spell juice and it let you do something, let's use Golden Axe as an example. Golden Axe, you kick the little blue guys, you get the potions all the way across, and each time you get some more potions, you do a higher power spell, until you get the big dragon with the full one and smites everything on the screen, and that's great. Now, why couldn't that have just done that? So it's like, right, well, you need at least this much spell power to kill this. Why is it, you found a book, well done, you can kill this zombie wandering around. That makes no sense. Yep. None. Nope. I just don't get it. It's just a stupid design choice, and it's just ridiculous. And this, like I said, it's got a really annoying music. It looks okay, and it controls are okay. I've got no problem with any of that. It's just, the design of it is dreadful. The game's just pure annoyance as far as I'm concerned. What did it get? It got 30%. Yeah, okay, because the graphics are all right, but it's led me to the pretty sharpish. I was done. I was like, no, I'm out. I'm bored of it. This is annoying beyond even anything I've played in a while. So I didn't like it. What about you?
It's troubled, isn't it? This with its back of the fag packet game design document. The reason that it hasn't got those things and that you specify is because that didn't fit on the back of the post-it note that the game design was written upon.
Yeah.
A series of impossibly hard and dreary mini games here, isn't there? Control Lily as you walk around. Control Herman and the Grandad as you walk around. Control Herman and Eddie as you walk around. Control a dragon and a car as you fly around. Control Herman opening doors. Honestly, that's as exciting as they got with the ideas of this game. Let's just have them doing stuff like walking around and opening doors. Who thinks of this rubbish? It's the bloody Munsters, for goodness sake. There's loads of exciting things you could have thrown into that, but no, not allowed to do that. What you get is boring. Graphics, as you say. That's the one saving grace for this, because the graphics are good, and if they'd have just thought about putting a good game in there, you'd have had something here. Because those graphics did look the part. The house looked good, the backgrounds look spooky and not in a quite as good as Cauldron 2 kind of way.
But no.
But it looked like the part, and the characters looked like the characters. That was all good. That music is what I would describe as that's a Homer's doorbell, isn't it? That
it can't be stopped.
It can't be stopped. No. It makes you grit your teeth. You're like, oh god, here we go again. So it's awful, and yes, it is the theme. But you know what? An option to turn that off. I suppose you've got a volume.
This is what this is. This is the monkey's paw again. How many times have we said the music's right there? Just use it. Just use it. How many times have we said it about these classic tunes? And they went, okay, here's the music. You asked for it.
You asked for it. So yeah. So sprites, backgrounds, all good. They're not bad at all. But the way the game plays, just it's just a walk, collect, avoid, shoot, repeat, don't die. That's kind of, and there's nothing more to it than that. It doesn't get any more exciting. You're just walking around and not dying a lot. Yep. Mm-hmm. That's really what this game is. And that's not a game design that I want to, get involved with the Munsters. A lot of money for this, isn't it, too? £9.
Yeah, 10 quid.
That would bring the Munsters back from the dead. No, they wouldn't be very happy about that.
No, Grandpa would not be happy.
It wouldn't. It feels underdeveloped in the sense of the game design. They obviously got the graphics done first, so what a shame. I know the Munsters is an old thing, and no, not everyone's into it. Same way the Addams Family, but there's that. I think because the Addams Family gets a lot of attention, so the Munsters also gets the attention. They're very much, two sides of the same coin, as it were. But I don't know. I didn't like this. It's an expensive game. I would never have bought it anyway. But I can't help but feeling you'd be quite angry at yourself when you start to play this game and get into it, and you just constantly trying to either get more spells by spell juicing, and it's just rubbish, just endless boring rubbish, and that's boring to do. There's another boring one. No. 30%, yeah, for the graphics, as you say. There's no other reason to like this, and that music needs to go back to hell where it came from.
Yeah, this and the Blasteroids music today.
Yeah, Homer's Doorbell. The Homer's Doorbell Award is going to be given at the end of these awards.
I think we need to. We've got 3 contenders already.
We have. There's bound to be more.
There's bound to be more. All right, there we go. That's the first part over with. That's not a great first part. It's April. What can we say? Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We come back. We've got film and TV. Hopefully there'll be some things in film and TV that will make us smile for April 1989. So please do keep listening. And we're back. let's get into some TV. 1st of April, not an April Fool, but 5-Star appeared on CBBC's Going Live to promote their latest single, With Every Heartbeat. During a live phone-in, a teenage caller verbally abuses them and asks why they are so crap. Presenter Sarah Green quickly cuts off the call as the tirade continues.
There
you go. Supposedly on 23rd of September 2019, an individual claiming to be Elliot Fletcher, the caller, apologised to the band for the incident via a social media account. However, doubt is cast on the authenticity of the apology after several other people claim to be the notorious caller. I'm Spartacus.
There's no time to go Spartacus on it. What weirdness is this? Why would you suddenly become a claimer? You didn't do that. I abused those people when they were on TV.
I know.
It's like, don't claim that. That's the last thing you want to be claiming. It's a pretty nasty rant as well. I found it's on YouTube, the clip. We'll stick it in the show notes. I found the clip with the swearing. It is a pretty, unwarranted tirade. Very dumb.
I don't think I've ever heard the full version. I might listen to that.
It's lots. I'm not going to say all the swear words in it because there's all the really nasty ones, but lots of MFs, lots of Fs. It's very nasty, and they're all shell-shocked. Sarah Green's totally pro, though. She's just switches the phone off, neutralises that electro scan, and that's the end of that. But what a dickhead, to do that. There's no need to do that. Just, trying to get you 15 minutes of shame. Well, but don't confess to it later in life, whatever. Crazy.
No, true. Although it has become one of those, do you remember the 80s staples?
Yeah, it's on all of them, yeah. On those Channel 5 have made a channel out of it.
Absolutely. Do you remember this? At 10 o'clock, we discussed the outburst on CBBC's Going Live from 1989. 11 o'clock, we got introduced Sarah Green about the...
Yeah, it would be, because on that programme they have, when they interview the people, it'd be the guy that was in the background, the third guy that held the camera, the guy that changed the light bulb the day before. It's like, well, I changed the light bulbs, and I remember it. Whatever.
Yeah, there you go. 3rd of April, Channel 4 launches its breakfast television show, the Channel 4 Daily. Don't remember this at all. The programme is based heavily on news and current affairs.
That's why you don't remember it.
True. With segments focusing on sports, finance, lifestyles, art, and entertainment and discussion. It is axed in 1992 after failing to gain enough viewers and was subsequently replaced by the much more popular The Big Breakfast.
Oh, dear. Do you not remember any of it?
No, I mean, no, I think 1989, what was that, just ending the first year of the sixth form, I was getting up at about 20 to 9, having a quick shower, wandering to school with a round of toast in my hand. And that was probably my morning.
So you weren't going to be up at 6 a.m. to watch the Channel 4 Daily then?
God, no.
No. And I mean, how could they go from it being so wrong, Channel 4 Daily, to say, right, The Big Breakfast was a great show, and it lasted for quite some time, didn't it?
Did launch quite a few careers as well, didn't it?
Just a bit, yeah. Just a few, yeah.
Chris Evans, Denise Van Outen, Johnny
Vaughan.
Johnny Vaughan, yeah.
Yeah. Everyone say mental, chicken oriental. That's what they said on that. They said that.
You want
show.
To? Yeah. Big Breakfast was good, but yeah, I don't remember the Channel 4 one. I mean, you're up against breakfast. My mum would always watch breakfast TV on BBC One. Always. If I wasn't, that was on. So
yeah.
Channel 4 didn't get a look in.
No. And prior to that, we used to have Radio Humberside on in the mornings when I was young.
Wow, you could tell you lived on the Wybers.
It wasn't my choice. It was that of the shipping forecast.
I was going to say, I'm surprised it wasn't the shipping forecast. It
would have been if it depended who was in and who got to the bloody radio first, and you weren't allowed to touch the damn thing. So,
wind speed 7, doggo.
What is
this?
North Utsira, South Utsira,
what is
moderate,
this?
good.
The shipping forecast. Anyway, 15th of April. I won't. You can't joke about this. Anyway, no, the date of the Hillsborough disaster. The BBC's cameras are at the Hillsborough ground to record the FA Cup semi-final clash between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest for their Match of the Day programme. As the disaster unfolds, the events are relayed to their live sports show grandstand, resulting in extreme emotional impact on the general British population. It's horrific.
I don't think anyone of our age range can ever forget that footage, can they? Really?
No. Just awful. I remember. Yeah, just awful, horrible. I don't want to say too much about it. Just. No. Another reason to hate the sun. There you go.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. And there is a little documentary, which there's a lot of documentaries on YouTube. I found a quite good one, which we'll post in the show notes. If it's something you're interested in, then go and watch that, because it's it's quite interesting to watch the anatomy of it all.
Yeah.
See, what mistakes have been made. The only thing I would say on the back of all of this is that, you can only hope that valuable, and there were valuable lessons were learned, because of these disasters, so that thankfully things like that can never happen again. Not on the account of the crappy newspapers that were trying to do everybody in from it, I have to say. So, but the people of that have rallied around that, the people that were affected by it, they have genuinely gone on to sort of really push to get justice and all the rest of it. And you've got to admire that they've made real changes in that sport for the better.
Yeah,
tragic that it happened. Tragic.
20th of April, John Leslie becomes the first Scottish presenter of Blue Peter on BBC One.
You remember him starting on there, John Leslie?
Very, very vaguely. I mean, not sure I turned into what's his face off of the Fast Show then, didn't I, for a moment? Very drunk. Very drunk.
On the first episode, he turned up eating a haggis in a kilt, just in case you didn't realise he was Scottish.
He had a fake ginger beard on. He went,
honestly.
They call me Willie.
Exactly. He just they got groundskeeper Willie on to the Blue Peter.
Did they really? Is that true?
Yeah, he came on eating and talking about Scottish stuff, which is fair enough because maybe that needed
I get it. There's two ways to look at it. There's like he's proud of his town.
Yeah, and that's a damn rare thing.
Exactly.
There's a beautiful irony that's going to follow the next thing I'm going to say, and see if you can spot this irony. So he actually went on, John Leslie, to become the aside from a sort of a brief flirtation with somebody called Abby Titmus, which we won't talk about. All right. That happened. He then became a presenter for This Morning, which is a big TV show in the UK. If you're not from the UK, TV show, been running for forever, various different hosts. And he was actually a host on that show. It was famously hosted by Richard Madeley and Judy Finnegan. They departed the show and it was replaced by different people. And he was on there with Fern Britton, I think, and it was him. And then later they changed. But in 2002, after some allegations were thrown at him, he was dismissed from the programme and replaced by Phil Schofield, who has now also been dismissed from the show because of allegations against him.
Well, it was sexual allegations, wasn't it? It was dubious.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, but that's what I mean. But it's just irony that they keep saying how pristine and how wonderful the show is, and it just looks like it seems to have the same problems that have been occurring for quite some time, going in loops like a soap opera, one might say.
One might say. Hopefully, nothing happens with our Dermot. We can't have Dermot O'Leary having
Dermot. No, his head's just becoming more and more cuboid, isn't it?
Dermot O'Leary.
It's happening. I've noticed this is happening to a few different famous TV celebs. Have you not noticed the cuboiding of the TV celebs?
I don't have TV these days, so
because Dermot's head's going quite cuboid, and it began some time ago with Sophie Ellis Bextor. She started to get like cuboid of the head, but she's rounded off a bit, so she's not as bad now. But Dermot's going cuboid. Gordon Ramsay is going cuboid. He's always been a cube.
He's always been like a cube, though.
He is, but there's more of him.
He's always looked like a character. We've said this. He's low polyism. They look like he's looking like a character from GoldenEye.
Honestly, the more now I've mentioned it to you, and when you do watch the few programs that you watch here and there, you'll start to notice the cuboiding of the heads because it's happening more and more and more. I don't know what's going on, whether they're all wearing the same tight hats or something, but
I think
their heads are going cuboid.
We're just seeing it without the softening that CRT TVs would give to the people's heads. When we see it in 4K,
in high res,
we see it in proper high res. So we can just oh my god, his head's a cube. Get the CRT filter on him.
It'll explain so much. All the time they're at kids' parties and the balloons pop, and they're like, "Why do they keep popping? They keep blowing them up, and they keep popping." Absolutely. It was on the corners of their sharp cuboid heads.
He goes playing football with his kid, and every time there's a corner, it flies in. The ball bursts.
Exactly. Just pass me my hat, will you? He's misshapen this. I won't even go on my head now. It's like trying to fit a square peg on a round hole.
Who's squared me fez?
My fez has gone all cuboid. It's not a fez anymore. It's a bloody rectangle. It's a cube. What's going on? Anyway, so there's cuboiding of the heads, and people listen to this podcast. If you spot a cuboid or a cubie, as we like to call them,
please give generously.
Do let us know. Yeah, we'll give generously, but let us know. We're trying to catalogue them as it goes. Or I am.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with me. Just go to Graham's blog, cuboiding.
And for the record, my head is very round, actually, and Adie's head is quite round as well. It's not cuboid.
No,
but if you know anyone who's going cuboid, you need to know. Just watch your hats. Is all I'm saying. They'll rip through any Benny out you've got. Any beanie you've got. They're going to go right through the corners of that, ruin it for you.
Absolutely, and God's sake, keep away from balloons. 21st of April, BBC Two's 25th anniversary. Programming includes an edition of Arena in which the author Graham Greene sets out to trace a namesake who posed as him for many years, an edition of The Late Show which looks at the early BBC Two jazz programme, Jazz 625. Nice.
Great. Yeah, nice. I bet it was like that as well. Just welcome to Jazz 65.
Great. They know how to celebrate on BBC Two.
Yeah, don't they?
Good
Wow,
Lord.
party for BBC 25th anniversary. Woo, party! That's it. Let's have 625 jazz. I bet that's the time signature as well.
625.
I play 625 beats for every one of your 4. How does that even work? We don't know. It just happens.
Don't worry about it. It's the notes you don't hear.
Exactly. We hope you enjoy it. What a cop-out that is as well for jazz. I mean, I do like jazz as a music, don't get me wrong, but when they say, it's about the notes in between notes, it's like, shut up. It's not about that.
That's like, so if I put like my TV, when I put it on that smoothing mode, am I going to hear the notes that you're not playing, like as interpolated frames?
Do you know,
No.
I didn't enjoy The Lord of the Rings. You didn't read the words between the words, you see. If you'd have done that, you'd have enjoyed it
Twice
way more.
as long.
Shut up. There are no words there, and I'm not hearing your stupid notes. Even I do hear the blue ones, but none of the others.
I wish George R.R. Martin would follow that as well, because he writes the words between the words and between those bloody words. I've read all of the that last sodding Song of Ice and Fire book. Nothing happens for 1,000 pages. That's quite the talent.
God, that's heavy, isn't it? 1,000 pages.
It's written over 5,000 pages so far for that damn story. 5,300, I think it is.
Entire chapters about nothing.
Nothing's happened since the Red Wedding.
Have you read the Gormenghast trilogy before?
No, I know of them. I think I tried to read them.
The first 3 chapters of the first book of the Gormenghast trilogy is three chapters, endless chapters of a guy describing a kitchen, like a medieval kitchen. God, I gave up hope to live in when I read that. I was like, oh, please make it end.
That's like Tad Williams' books. I read all of these Tad Williams books. There were 4 of them. And so many times the main hero just got lost in underground tunnels. And his chapters are like 30, 40 pages long. And each chapter is just one of those chapters. It's a whole chapter of him just in a tunnel.
It's like he went to the left, more tunnels followed.
Yeah, pretty much. He got a bit darker, went down. Oh, he thought he'd never get out of here. I thought I'd never get out of that bloody chapter.
Is there no way out of this tunnel? He said, as it echoed into another tunnel.
Just goes on and on. Oh, you know, when you times you're like, what am I doing? Why am I reading this? But
yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I read it all for my sin. Anyway, 26th of April, BBC One airs A Case of Spontaneous Human Combustion, QED, documentary, which sets out to investigate apparent instances of the phenomenon of spontaneous human combustion. Combustion of the human body without an apparent external source of ignition. This programme terrified me, absolutely scared the crap out of me. I remember watching it because I thought, oh yeah, because there'd been spontaneous human combustion. You posted that picture there of the thingy with the leg. Those Hamlin books of horror, there was sections in them about spontaneous human combustion. And I remember reading them and just being like, we could just burst into flames and we just explode. And it don't burn anything around us apart from us. We just
just terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. As a very, as an imaginative 17-year-old, this terrified. I was convinced. I wasn't going to naked flames for years.
No, and then they eventually make a film out of it, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
A crappy film. Brad Dourif in it, shouting a lot. Well, you would.
That's any film with Brad Dourif.
Especially if that's surprisingly true, actually. Yeah.
But this
scary stuff, wasn't it?
It was genuinely, I didn't enjoy this, but I was fascinated by it though. Absolutely fascinated by it. As you would be by into this kind of thing back then.
Yeah.
We know now about the Wick effect. What's that?
So they now know, because there is obviously no such thing as spontaneous human combustion. Just so you know, it's been debunked now massively.
Oh no!
Unless, of course, you happen to be talking about So the Wick effect is basically what happens is your body fat that you have inside of you acts like, imagine a candle. You basically become a candle. Ooh. And so there's a lot of internal. They discovered that a lot of the people who supposedly died of spontaneous human combustion, and the fact that it hadn't burned things around in, say, a flat. So the TV was perfectly fine, but they'd been burned to ash, as it were.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, their clothes that they were in, because of some of the materials and things, acted like wrapping them in like a case, so they've become a bit like a candle. And because they essentially had probably died of other causes initially, so they probably had a heart attack or something like that, and they'd had naked flames, candles, things like that. That had ignited them in some way, ignited their clothing, or ignited some part of it, but they didn't burn like you would expect them to. They kind of burn a bit like a candle wick. So that burns all the way down the center and it renders all the fat, but it doesn't actually generate a lot of heat internally. And there's an entire science description of all that. The long and the short of it is, it doesn't mean that people explode into...
That still sounds quite horrible.
Yeah, it's truly horrible, yeah.
Oh, you just burn down the middle. Oh,
well,
great.
It was no coincidence that it happened to, people who were older.
Yeah.
And those are the people that had a lot of gas fires who'd sat to get warm. They'd slowly passed away or had a heart attack, and then they'd stumbled onto the fire, and eventually it just turned them into a human candle. And when they found them, they just found a foot sticking out the bottom of the
Part
what
of
they thought
ash.
was a rug. Yeah, and they ash, and it's because essentially their body fat had rendered them into a sort of human candle, which is gross. But at least it's not spontaneous human combustion. It's probably more palatable, actually, to say, I'm sorry, but your grandma exploded. We don't know why it happens. It just does. Rather than going, she fell over on a fire and she melted like a candle. Horrible.
All the way, yeah. Just slowly. She turned into tallow.
Yeah, well, they tested it with a pig carcass on a TV show later as well to sort of prove that was how it worked. When they wrapped a pig carcass in I think it was a carpet, like a rug, and did the same thing, proved that that's how it sort of worked. So
You mean they proved it in test?
Yeah, which is, of all the tests you're going to prove, that's probably the one that you're not going to put on your CV, is it?
It's the PhD I want to write.
Anyway, but that doesn't stop the horrible pictures and the famous picture of the elderly woman's foot sticking out of the ash.
Yeah.
We'll maybe post that in the show notes. You can hunt these things down on YouTube,
Yeah,
on Google. It's right there.
Quite grim. Anyway, new TV shows for the month. 1st of April, there was Ghost Train.
Did you watch Ghost Train? Do you remember it?
Is this one of the Saturday morning TV shows?
Similar kind of thing, yeah. It was one of those sort of shows, kids show with multi-format show. With live stuff happening and that.
So like going live type thing. Was that ITV, wasn't it? ITV,
yes, it was. Yeah, it was ITV's version. I think principally famous for having some cartoons that everyone watched on it. Scooby-Doo, the later version.
What was the one that had the the one that had the Return of the Killer Tomatoes on?
That came much later, I think.
Was it?
Yeah. Well, I say much later. I'm not sure what that was, actually. That might have just been on... I don't know. You'd have to Google that. Okay. It could have been Ghost Train. It could have easily been, because they had the real Ghostbusters on there and Trapdoor and Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether it was that or not.
But it wasn't the original Scooby-Doo they had on. They had the Scooby-Doo Club or something like that. One of the later, really horrible Scooby-Doos.
We don't talk about that.
No, the Scooby-Don'ts. We don't.
Yeah, exactly. 2nd of April is May to December.
Yeah.
Oh, God, this was
My mum loved it.
boring. I remember. Remember this.
Yeah.
Just, dull.
When you're watching it, you felt your life draining away like it was from May to December. All right, my mum really dug it though. She was into
it was May 1989 to December 1994. It was 5 years worth. It's like so long it ran.
Endless, dreary guff.
Boring. 2nd of April was The Heroes.
Not one I was familiar with at all, but it apparently came out on DVD later. It's a mini-series, but I couldn't find much about it.
British-Australian mini-series on Operation Jaywick, a World War II Special Forces raid on Japanese shipping in Singapore Harbour by the Australian Z Special Unit.
Bless them.
There we go. That's what that was. 3rd of April was the Channel 4 Daily.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. So was this one, the breakfast show, was it?
Channel 4 Daily, yeah. It's the same one.
Oh, it was. Yeah. All right. We've talked about that. Also on the 3rd of April was the Bartons.
I never saw that.
The Australian invasion continues. No, I don't know what this is. What is it?
Never heard of the Bartons.
It's an Australian television drama aimed at older children and young teens.
Never heard of it.
No idea. No.
I was an older teen, and I never even got to my eyeballs.
No. 4th of April was Tugs.
Oh, it's probably a good job that's not out now, isn't it?
Thomas. So this is from the producer of Thomas the Tank Engine, which is a bit of a euphemism, and then we get Tugs, which is another euphemism.
It is now.
How did they get? I'm sure it was back then.
Thomas the Tank, bit of tugging. Honestly, they put faces on boats.
Smiley faces.
Well, they're very happy. They're all. It wasn't ever going to be as popular as Thomas the Tank, was it? Maybe having a Thomas the Tank might be more popular. But if you went for a tug, and if you
went for a watery-eyed Tom Hank,
I don't know. Does it work? It didn't really work for me on Thomas the Tank Engine. But I'm not a 5-year-old. But I don't think kids really warmed to the idea of just tugboats, barging around doing boat shit. So it's not very much fun, is it? I don't know who did the voices. I'm hoping it's the same guy that did the voices for Thomas the Tank Engine.
That's Stingy, isn't it?
Ringo Starr, yeah, because it would just be good if if you're going to anthropomorphize anything to do with trains, planes, boats, whatever, it has to be him.
It's set in the Roaring '20s. So they mentioned the two anthropomorphized tugboat fleets, the Starfleet and the Z-Stacks, who compete against each other in the fictional big city port, the biggest harbour in the world. Sounds like nonsense.
They built a massive diorama and they thought that'd be good for a TV series. Wasn't though.
No, it wasn't. 6th of April is Tricky Business. I don't know what this is. What is it? What?
It was a British children's TV show, a sitcom actually, and weirdly it had a really odd cast, which is why I sort of brought up. So it's got like a few famous names in this. Eunice Stubbs was in it in the first series. Patsy Palmer made an appearance. A puppet rabbit called Crabtree, performed by Marcus Clark and made by Hand Up Puppets. I'm not sure I'd like the sound of that. Bernie Clifton was in the second season. Leslie Schofield in the third. Paul Xenon. I thought, maybe Xenon Attack. Paul Xenon 2, that's his brother, was in Amiga game. No, he wasn't. And also, he played somebody called Tricky Mickey in Series 2 and Series 3, as well as being the magic consultant for both those series. You can't. You made that job title up.
What's your job? I'm the magic consultant.
I'm the magic
they consult you about magic? No, I'm just really good. I'm the magic consultant.
I also play Tricky Mickey, the magic consultant. Oh, get lost, bloody Paul.
Paul Xenon.
Xenon.
No one named after a bloody, what were they called?
Bulb.
No, the things that make up the world, carbon, helium, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, he's named after a gas and an element.
Element, God's sake. You tell him about a cold. My brain stopped working.
You needed to contact Tricky Mickey and ask him for some consultation there about what you needed to say. He'd have told you.
Well, he would have been the magic consultant, so he'd have just told me how to do a spell.
Yes.
Damn him. 8th of April is the world of David the Gnome. What is this?
Crap. That's the word you're looking for.
Is it Spanish? A Spanish animated television series based on the children's book, The Secret Book of Gnomes, by the Dutch author Will Huygen and illustrator Orion Putwell. How did this go from a Dutch book to Spain to us 3 years later? What's going on?
I like the fact that it says The World of David the Gnome, originally titled David El Gnomo. David El Gnomo.
Yep.
That's because that's got a dramatic Spanish pause in there. That's what that is. David El Gnomo. It's got that, so that's how it's. Ha! It's got that at the end of it.
Yeah, don't work here. David the Gnome.
It's not because if you say it in the UK version, David the Gnome, it's like hello, David the Gnome. But the Spanish, it's got more ha about him. I am David El Gnomo.
I am the last thing you will see. 8th of April.
Pass me my hat.
Who has put holes in this? Damn it! I'm the last thing you'll see.
You block-headed crazy.
No more this morning for you. 8th of April is MacGyver.
No.
This ran forever, didn't it? 1985 to 92 and came back in 2016. It's Richard Dean Anderson, isn't it? I'm sure it is.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Who would then obviously go on to do, he would be Stargate. That's where I know Richard Dean Anderson from. The TV series of Stargate. He played not the James Spader, he was the Kurt Russell role, wasn't he?
He was.
In the film.
Now, I have never watched a full episode of MacGyver. I know he makes shit out of household items when he's trapped.
Yeah, it's like a single man A-team.
Yeah, that's all I remember of it. I just remember Patty and Selma from The Simpsons banging on about watching MacGyver. That's really all I remember it for.
MacGyver's on. Yeah.
Scrub my corns, MacGyver's on.
12th of April, No Strings.
No.
Some crappy BBC sitcom. Yep, who cares?
Yep.
14th of April, Windfalls.
Yeah, this show, the description itself. Windfalls is a British stop-motion animated children's television series created, written and directed by Jenny Kenner. The Windfalls stories teach children about reading signs in nature, herbal medicine, and the plants of the British countryside. All of the animated characters are real leaves, grasses, and pressed flowers, and really boring. Sorry. Sounds like a right load of... But mushrooms. Children, these mushrooms that we've got here, take one of those each. That's what we call a dried gram. How are you all doing now? Yes, Billy, yes. Yes, that grass does look like a duvet now. Yeah, it's...
Yes, Billy, you've now got 7 fingers. Well done.
I haven't spoken in 2 hours, Billy. I don't know who you're talking to. But it sounds like apart from that episode, the rest of it's a right load of old crap.
Yeah, it probably is. 14th of April, Grim Tales.
I liked Grim Tales.
Yeah, it was Rick Mayall, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, very, very vaguely remember this. I think I'm just too old for this by this point. I'm 17. I'm not watching this stuff.
Well, he told the stories in that very Rick Mayall way, very much like his sort of bit of an act that he did. Yeah, the character that he played. It's quite lively, funny. Was
it sort of a spin because he did the Jack and Ori at one point, didn't he?
Yes, yeah, it's very similar. I think that's what kind of prompted it because he was so successful with that.
He was, yeah. What did he do? Was it George's Marvelous Medicine he did?
Yes, he did, yes, correct.
Yeah. Also, 14th of April is Surgical Spirit. This is some kind of sitcom. was based around Sheila Sabatini, a senior surgeon at the Gillies Hospital, whose verbal skills have most people running for cover, as her tongue is as sharp as their scalpel. She dominated the operating theatre, while at home she was divorcing her Italian husband, Remo, unarmed and dangerous, with whom she had a son, Daniel, who's armed and not quite so dangerous. Sheila was also a gossip. That doesn't sound right. Sheila was also a gossip, often gossiping with her best friend, theatre administrator Joyce Watson. So it's gone from some high-powered woman. No, don't want to talk to me. And then she's a bit of a gossip, though, because she's a woman.
Do you know what would have been good in that show? If she actually performed the surgery with a tongue that was as sharp as a scalpel. So it was like, right, just lay them there. Right, is everyone ready? Yeah. Like a stump. Ah, God. Is that...
I'm just going to make a 3-inch slice just below the chest.
Imagine that. Just need to make a slight incision over there. Oh, dear, I've sliced a nipple off with... Oh, and that's the other one. Oh, there's blood everywhere. Oh, no, I've cut my own lip. Have I? Or is it your lip? Oh, this tongue, this stupid sharp tongue. It's so sharp. It's as sharp as a scalpel, you know.
It's time to go home and speak to my husband. I hope he's armed, because when he's not, he's dangerous. For those who don't know, Remo Unarmed and Dangerous is a film with Fred, what's his face, from Trevor's.
Yes, it is.
From the 80s. 23rd of April.
Another one that never rented.
Yeah. Oh, with a name like that. 23rd of April, Tanamera, Lion of Singapore. No.
Another Australian series.
One
that completely missed me, that one.
And there's another one, 23rd of April, The Henderson Kids, another Australian series.
Yep.
Yeah, whatever.
We're into deep Australian territory now.
We really are.
Everything Australian was fair game on UK TV at this point.
It was. 23rd of April, Capstick's Law. Oh, God. Let's get in some films. I don't want to talk about Capstick's Law. Get some films.
It sounds stupid. Chapstick's Law. Rubbish.
You'll always run out. You can never find it just when you need it. That's Chapstick's Law.
You always have to buy a new one. You end up, and then you find the mysterious place of all chapsticks, where the graveyard of chapsticks, where you find 9 of them. You're like, what?
4th of April films. 4th of April, you could have gone seen Splendor.
Yeah, it's a film made entirely about a sugar alternative.
It's actually not. It's an Italian film, I think.
It is. Yeah.
It is an Italian film about the pleasures and the wonder of cinema.
Yeah, it may as well be Clarky Cat, because I do not know it.
No, I don't. 7th of April, you could have gone seen Return from the River Kwai. You shouldn't have, though.
Don't go see that.
No, when this film was released in the United Kingdom, this is a thingy from the IMDb, the movie carried a legal warning and disclaimer that it was not in any way related to or a sequel to the film The Bridge on the River Kwai. I think the British take the Bridge on the River Kwai film quite seriously, and because of what it portrays.
As they should.
Like that. And then for the fact that a legal warning had to be put at the front of this film going, it's nothing to do with that film.
No, it got, horribly reviewed, obviously, because they just made a load of rubbish up, and it is rubbish as well. Really rubbish, that film.
Yeah, dreadful. You could also, and probably should have done, actually, no, maybe gone and seen this, Alien Nation.
Yeah, it's pretty good, Alien Nation. It's actually, it's a bit of an odd film. It's like a, if they weren't wearing alien masks.
It's a buddy movie, isn't it? It's a buddy cop movie. There's been loads of these sort of weird things, but it's reminded me of Enemy Mine. Also, I always thought a bit of a weird precursor to, I don't know why, but it always sticks in my head like District 9.
Yeah, I can see that.
With like the aliens have come down and they've integrated, and but they've got their own thing. There was that other film on Netflix recently with elves and magic and stuff like that, where it was orcs and stuff living in LA.
Yeah, yes. I mean, it's obviously it was a big sort of mirror being held up, wasn't it? The kind of race problems and stuff in those cities.
It's one of those. It's a sort of sci-fi take on integration and ethnic populations moving into somewhere else and not being liked and things like that.
And there's more of an echo of District 9. District 9 has more of an echo of it. You're absolutely right. There's a clear line you can draw to them. And there was, of course, the Alien Nation TV show, which was a little bit more about the stuff that we've just spoke about and less about the buddy cop stuff. Yeah, so they're both actually pretty good. It's a good TV series as well. Actually, it wasn't bad at all.
It wasn't bad.
Underrated.
If you didn't want to go see that, you could have gone seen Fright Night Part 2.
Yeah, you could have. I mean, it's because it's not the same vampire, is it? From the First one, because obviously
it's his sister, isn't it?
Sister relative, yeah. And it has some good moments in it, but it is a film of its moments and scenes. It's not It's not as good as the first one.
I watched most of it earlier today because I don't think I've seen it for years since I saw it at the cinema, actually. So I watched most of it today, and it's directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, which is interesting. So I didn't know that. So I was like, okay. It's got some really nice shots in it. I posted a shot there for you. So it's some really nice cinematography in it. And it looks, because I also watched one of my other films later on today, on this episode as well today, and it looks like a Carpenter film. It's got that sort of slightly Carpenterish look.
It does.
But fully nice widescreen shots to it. It also has vampires on roller skates. Charlie Brewster's rocking a great side-parted mullet for most of it, which is awesome. And the main vampire I forgot about is Judy Carmen, who played Styles in The Mouth of Madness.
That's right, yeah.
However, the weird thing about this film was that it was made and everything. I'm just going to read this from, this was on IMDb. After the filming was wrapped up, Ronnie McDowell and Fright Night creator Tom Holland were scheduled to meet with Live Entertainment chairman Jose Menendez to discuss making a third film, but plans died with Menendez, who was infamously murdered by his sons.
Grim.
As a direct consequence of this horrific tragedy, Part 2 ended up losing its planned countrywide distribution, played only one LA and another New York theatre, which directly resulted in its poor box office results. You know, understandably, even though its per theatre results were pretty good, and being released almost straight to video. Since all of the movie's planned promos and ads were cancelled as well, most people never even learned of the movie's existence until they eventually noticed it on their local video store. I saw this at a late night screening at the Grimsby ABC down Freeman Street. It was on at 11 o'clock one Friday night. Went with my brother to see it. That's where I saw it. I didn't know it was coming, but it was a very odd thing. It's a strange old film, this, but it is actually better than I rememred it. And I did actually watch it earlier today.
Yeah, they're all good.
There's some weird moments in it, weird sort of 80s comedic moments in it, but like, you know, whatever. But it has another good tone to it, like the first film. There's a decent tone to this, some really kind of nice sequences as well.
The dancing sequence in the nightclub and the scene in there is really good.
Yeah.
Really good. And Blade borrows a little bit of that kind of vibe later on for when they do the famous sort of nightclub blood dance scene. And although it's obviously not as brutal as that, but the idea of having vampires in a club and stuff happening and people not sure about it, and that's all very much where this all began. And she's good moments in that.
And she's really good as the main vampire.
Yes, she is. I mean, I'm not a fan of the rollerblady person, but there's other stuff going on in that film. And of course, let's not forget that we've still, later down the line, you've got the amazingly good and horribly underrated remake of Fright Night, which is really genuinely a great film to watch.
Yeah, it is. Not the sequel, though. You ever watched the sequel?
No, don't. No, it's like saying that watch the sequel to Jeepers Creepers 3. Never watch Jeepers Creepers 3, ever.
No, don't do that. Well, for many reasons.
But that is a great film. Worth checking out. The Fright Night series, 1 and 2, the originals, are worth checking out. They follow on from each other. Same characters and everything as well, principally. It's all good.
Yeah, it is good. I quite enjoyed it. Same day as well, there's a lot coming out. Camille Claudel came out as well. French film, I'm guessing. With
Isabella Gianni in it.
Isabella Gianni.
Yes. Remember her from 1979's Nosferatu, or Boobs, as it was known in my house. It's not the official translation. And she was also, of course, in the very Lorraine Margot, which I went to see with Gary at the Whitgift Cinema.
And me, I think.
So, yeah, you might have been there. Boobs in Dresses was the not official translation.
I just remember that. I'd call that blood. It's the sweating
very,
blood.
Very gory. Yeah, very gory.
Gets poisoned, the king, doesn't he? Blood, sweats blood.
Yeah, yes. It's a very violent movie as well. These obviously culminates in a very violent scene, but it's a very good film as well. But yeah.
Yeah. There we go. 14th of April, you've got to go and see The Tall Guy. Directed by Mel Smith. Yeah, Richard Curtis one. This is before Weddings and all that kind of thing. This was them getting into... Well, Richard Curtis getting into different stuff. Starred Jeff Goldblum. I went to the cinema to see this on a date. I can't remember who I went with, but I went with the girl. I remember seeing this. And I seem to remember that the sex scene in this, because there's a really sort of clumsy, awkward sex scene that seems to go on for ages, was really awkward to watch.
You sure you didn't try the old hole in the bottom of the box of popcorn trick or something?
No, I did not. I did actually, but the popcorn was really bloody hot.
Yeah. And the guy that grabbed off you was like, oh my God.
Get out. Oh.
Wait till you're in the theatre for that. Don't do it. Don't stick it in here. And for God's sake, don't do it with toffee popcorn.
Ew. No, I didn't do that. It was just, I remember just sitting there going, uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is a bit awkward when that happens.
For a 17-year-old boy, I was nervous and everything and what have you. You just,
exactly.
They're having sex.
Yeah, don't. I went on a date one time when I was, went to see the movie Jade. Have you seen the movie Jade?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that was awkward. Just awkward, all round awkward.
That's because you're heavy panting that you do.
I didn't quite anticipate that it was going to be that raunchy. I knew it was kind of raunchy-ish, but not that bad. But
yeah, at least you never went to see Bound with someone.
I forgot about that. It's got Corky in it. I have to watch that now.
Yeah. 14th of April continued. There's the Deadpool. Now, I did watch this today. God, it's bad.
Yep.
Jesus.
Yep.
And you've written here, the last of the Dirty Harry films, the one that has a better story behind it, as I recall. You recall wrongly.
Well, when I say better story, I mean Magnum Force and Dirty Harry, the first one, they're pretty good.
Yeah. The Enforcer
and the Enforcer's all right, but Sudden Impact was like terrible. At least this one had kind of people being, on a Deadpool list, people being shot. How he found himself on that list of like famous people, I don't get, but
no one knows. It's worth watching. There's a clip here which we'll post in. Just go watch it. It's the opening. If there's a more 80s opening piece of music, I will eat my hat.
There really is.
There's a scene where Jim Carrey mimes to Welcome to the Jungle, which is one of the oddest things I've ever seen.
It's horrible. Horrid.
Liam Neeson's Cockney accent. That's a thing to listen to. It's not great.
It's an album.
Yeah. Guns N' Roses are also in it. They actually turn up at the funeral. There's a picture there to prove
I forgot about that. Yeah, there they are. Yeah.
I'm not sure who the big guy is, though, with the hair next to him, who's blocking Axel in that image.
Who's that guy?
I don't know. But also in the next scene, where they're filming the scene with Liam Neeson is filming the scene for the movie that's being made in the film, Slash is firing the giant harpoon gun. Film is stupid.
It's all gone wrong.
It's gone very wrong. There's a bit where someone gets blown up with a toy car. It's ridiculous. It's so bad, this film. It looks like it's filmed it cost about 10p. It's dreadful. Awful.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. That's Dead Zone.
And Clint Eastwood said after he made that he wasn't going to do any more Dirty Harry movies because he was too old. Thinking, no, the films just were too crap. Don't be in them anymore.
Dreadful.
Don't do it.
If you watch Dirty Harry and Magnum Force, it's such a fall because those two films, the 70s brutal, dark and like that. This is the bit where he shoots all the guys at the beginning after the car crash. They shoot him off the road. His car crashes. He just shoots one in the head with a Magnum, and it's just a pop. But he's got a Magnum 45 from about 2 yards away. His head would just explode.
Yes, it would. And it's got that famous Magnum sound, hasn't it? It's the Dirty Harry Magnum gun sound, which is not our Magnum sound. So I fired a real Magnum 44 Magnum in Los Angeles, and I can tell you they don't sound anything like that. And nor could you be accurate with them from that distance. You wouldn't hit a pig from a meter away with it. Or I didn't. Not that I was shooting at pigs because I wasn't.
Just rubbish. Just terrible. Deadpool.
Horrible.
If you didn't want to go see Deadpool, and you probably shouldn't have because it's not very good, you could have gone seen Working Girl.
Working Girl. This is not my thing, this.
No, I mean, it's part of Harrison Ford's rich tapestry of roles post Indiana Jones, Han Solo. The things like Regarding Henry, Working Girl, Mosquito Coast, Witness, all those sort
Witness, that was the other one I was thinking.
All those sort of 80s sort of films where he was doing less actiony type things. Yeah. But obviously this wasn't. This was Melanie. Is Melanie Griffiths? Is it Melanie Griffiths in this? It is
Melanie Griffiths. Yeah, it is.
So this was one of those big films for the time. Massive hair in this film. So much massive hair.
Sigourney Weaver, isn't it? As well?
Sigourney Weaver as well. Yeah, and it's all about. Melanie Griffiths is a sort of regular secretary, and did she try and I can't remember the plot of it.
It's genuinely no good asking me. It's not a film don't think I've ever watched it successfully all the way through. So. Yeah,
but it's one of those films about women being not nice to women in the workplace as well, because I think Sigourney Weaver's a bit of
9 to 5 kind of vibes.
Yeah,
maybe, isn't that?
But it's also I always got the impression that this was another one of those Hollywood, like we said about Rain Man, backslapping itself for covering women doing well in the workplace. Look at that, we've covered it. We've covered it. Well done, everyone. We've addressed that issue.
Yes, the working girls can come good too. You can do well. Pretty Woman type vibes, giving off Pretty Woman vibes.
Well, I was going to mention Pretty Woman sort of thing is the ironic thing about, even prostitutes can come good.
Yeah, as long as they meet a Richard Gere.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. They just need a Prince Charming to be their Cinderella. Yes, they do. And again, that's what this is, I guess, isn't it? It's a bit of a Cinderella story, I suppose.
Yeah, it's Cinderella story.
I suppose, thinking about it, is a bit, isn't it? Cinderella story.
Cinderella story.
If you didn't want to see either of them, I mean, you could have gone and seen Burning Secret.
Could have, if you wanted to. Would you want to?
I don't know. This is, it's part one of the Klaus Maria Brandauer double bill for the month.
Oh, that's me sleeping tonight.
While being treated for asthma at a country spa, an American diplomat's lonely 12-year-old son is befriended and infatuated by a suave, mysterious baron.
Aye.
During a story of his war experiences, the baron reveals the scar of a wound from an American soldier and thrusts a pin through it, saying, "See? No feeling. Where'd you get this?" Little does the boy realise that it's his turn to be wounded, but soon his adored friend heartlessly brushes him aside and turns his seductive attention to his mother. The boy's jealousy and feelings of betrayal become uncontrollable.
What strange sounding film this is.
It's got Faye Dunaway in it, and you noted about the poster, so I went and found the poster. And as I've noted here for the first poster, what did you say? The era of film posters with faces at various angles.
It's just I remembered it. I remembered the cover because I remember just faces. And it put me on this thought process of there's loads of 80s movie posters that are just faces, shadowed faces. There's loads of them.
Yeah. But the typographer had one job, to put the names next to the faces.
Yeah. So, he's not labelled it so good.
So, you had one job. Alternatively, you could have had the other poster, which is a great crap fair almost.
That's weird. It's a crap fair, and it also looks a bit like a cover for more of a horror movie. I'm getting kind of Phantasm vibes off that.
It's really weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not good.
There's just a very small Klaus Maria Brandauer underneath a kind of large Faye Dunaway, and they've been stroked around the edge.
Yeah. They've been cut out badly, and then to hide the fact they've cut them out badly, they've given them a 5-pixel stroke around the edge, which is... Don't ever do that. Unless you're going for that effect, but not like that.
But they're in front of some kind of weird stained glass background almost.
I don't think anyone thought that through. It looks hand-drawn. It's got mountains in the background, but they're not mountains that you can see through the window. So that window exists on its own. It's weird. It's an inverted window. It's stupid.
Yeah, the window
Very
is the
stupid.
wall.
Yeah, not good.
Anyway, you could have seen that if you'd wanted it. 21st of April, you could have gone seen Hanausen, the second in the Klaus Maria Brandauer double bill.
Yeah, I'm not going to have seen that, no.
No, I'm not either. I'm not going to see much of the last couple, actually. 28th of April, just to round things off, you could have gone seen Joyriders.
Could have.
Which was about an Irish mum who ditches her children at a lost and found place and then goes on a joyride with a car thief around Ireland.
Correct.
You'd want to see that. Alternatively, you could have gone seen Betrayed, which is Tom Berenger, Deborah Winger. Yeah. Written by Joe Esterhaus.
Of course it is.
What does that mean, Graham? What does that mean?
It means it's sleazy and demure.
And someone's having sex up against a wall in a dark alleyway.
Exactly what it means. It means that some point in somewhere in that film, someone's getting banged up against the wall down an alley or in a kitchen, or either way, she's alarmingly high, the physics are all wrong.
There's the poster.
Yeah, exactly.
Showing that.
The physics is all wrong as well. If she's that high, he is either stronger than he looks in the man flesh department. I'm not sure what's going on. So.
The man flesh department. Just to say what the plot is, it's an FBI agent posing as a combine driver becomes romantically involved with a Midwest farmer who lives a double life as a white supremacist.
I wonder if there's a version of this where the Wurzels are in it. Sounds like the sort of thing they'd write songs about.
I've got a brand new combine harvester and I wear a white hood.
War. Not very good. These films became 10 a penny. You could substitute the two actors in this for a million other films. Of loads of them. There's one, I think William Hurt's in one with Kathleen Turner, looks exactly like that. There's loads of them. Yeah,
there's loads. There's directed by Costa Gavras. And Costa Gavras and Joe Esterhaus would also make the music box this year, which I don't know what that is, though.
Someone having sex in an alleyway on top of a music box.
While it spins round.
Maybe not that music, but I can imagine it's...
I was going to say, in my head it is, and I find that saucy. Very saucy. And on that saucy note, that's your films and TV for April 1989. Klaus Maria Brandauer, he doesn't appear. You wait all 122 podcasts to turn up, and then 2 come along at once. There you go. We're going to take a quick break on that note. We'll come back. We've still got 4 games to get through. 4 games. There is a crap vert. There are charts.
Ooh, wow.
There's loads of stuff still to come, so please do keep on listening. All right, we're back. Let's get into our games, Graham. It's over to you for our first one. Well, here it is. It's the C64 version of a film that we both liked. So hopefully we both like the game. This is Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Ooh, ba-doom, ba-doom, doom, beep, 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 ba-doom. I hate the music for this stupid game. So the publisher was Buena Vista Software. Obviously, Buena Vista Software. It's a Disney thing. It's something to do with Disney, so it's Buena Vista. Buena Vista. The developer was Amblin Entertainment. It's something to do with Spielberg as well. Spielbergo. Senor Spielbergo's involved.
This is his non-union affiliated Mexican counterpart, I think.
It was created by Reichardt von Wolfschild, which has got to be one of the greatest game design names of all time, surely.
It must be.
I always thought wasn't that the guy that was trapped inside the spaceship in the black hole? Anyway, that's Hans Reinhardt, sorry. This is coded by James J. Host. Graphics are by Eric Daniels. The title screen, James D. Sachs. And the musician is Jim Andron. That's the cast of people that brought you this. This is a downport from the 16-bit, or at least this is an 8-bit version of the same game that was released on 16-bit, with a pretty heavy price tag too, isn't it, at $14.99? 28% though. Ooh, something stinks. Obviously, it's based around the Who Framed Roger Rabbit movie. We've spoken about the Who Framed Roger Rabbit movie. You can go back and discover which episode that is. I didn't Google that or look it up, but you can do that. But we did talk about that. And, essentially, it was a film that was very famous for blending cartoon animated characters of the Disney kind and the Warner Brothers kind. So Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Donald Duck,
what did you ask
Mickey
me to
Mouse.
look up?
I didn't. But either way, it was famous for it being a blend of real live actors. Bob Hoskins famously played a character called Eddie Valiant, and he was investigating a crime. And the crime was that they thought that Roger Rabbit, a famous cartoon rabbit, had killed a business Lothario called Marvin Acme in order to try and steal his stuff. And the evil judge that's in town, or the Judge Doom, has got sights on Toontown, which is where all the Toons live, and he's also taken over the railroad. And it's a kind of convoluted story, actually, but the long and short of it is cartoons doing funny shit in that. So it's what it was, it's quite famous for doing, and it's very clever, technical, special effects, extravaganza, amazing. You think a game with all of that? Wow,
must be amazing, must be incredible.
It's a movie tie-in. This is a movie tie-in which is boiled down to a series of 3 mini games connected by a thematic link to an animated rabbit. Okay, when you boil it down to that, it starts to lose its function a little.
Allure.
There's 3 parts to this. There's part 1, which is, obviously you start the game, and I'll talk about that a little bit, but there's essentially 3 parts to this. Benny the Cab, or 3.5 really. Benny the Cab, the Ink and Paint Club, and the Gag Factory. So, okay. The aim of the game is to find Marvin Acme's will before the evil Judge Doom does, and also do this before Toontown is washed away with dip. Dip is a substance mixture of turpentine and something else, which Judge Doom invents, which is the only thing you can use to erase cartoons. In the context of Roger Rabbit, he kills a shoe. A poor shoe, he kills a shoe. And because we see the shoe scream to death in a bloody murder, it's a horrible scene, and we know that Dip is bad, all right? Dip is very bad. Uh-huh. So, as in the film, Roger is suspected or framed of, up to the point where you don't see this, but it's obviously occurs before the game starts. He's suspected or framed of murdering longtime gag producer and Toon friend, or friend of the Toons, and I don't mean that he likes Newcastle United, Marvin Acme, by dropping a safe on his head, just like a Toon. Just like a Toon, to drop a safe on someone's head. So essentially, you are on the run in this game. Unlike the film, however, you play as Roger Rabbit, not Eddie Valiant. And in a series of games or challenges, or whatever you might call them, with the intention of racing across Los Angeles, shown with locations on a map, finding the missing will written by Marvin Acme in invisible ink, and thus preventing ownership of Toontown from falling into the hands of Judge Doom, and ultimately being dipped, of course, as I've said. Obviously, you need to avoid getting caught by the judge and any of his gang while you do this, and you have essentially 1 hour, because after 1 hour goes by, if you haven't found it, the will and everything else is null and void, and the judge gets Toontown, gets the rights to Toontown, and it gets dipped good and proper. Lots of screaming shoes. Well, we don't want that. So it's a pretty smart loading screen for this, and title screen, very of the film in the way that it's presented. That'll greet you as well as some kind of, I think, pedestrian music. I don't think much attention was paid to the music for this. It's the same as the Amiga music. When I say the same as the Amiga music, essentially the same as the Amiga. And this, in fact, is indeed essentially the same as the Amiga version. Though obviously much lower res. Lower your res expectations. Definitely here.
Hang on a minute. That low? No, lower. You've got to go lower.
Lower them, and the colour expectations. We've gone from 512 colours to a cosy palette of 8, maybe 4, maybe 16. Who knows?
If you look.
Anyway, here you will get told your story from Baby Herman. So there's some of those parts are quite nice. And you start the game with the parts all loading individually and pretty slowly as it goes. Lives in this game are represented by barrels of dip. You start with 5 empty barrels at the start, and as you work through the game, if you hit anything as Benny or get thrown out of the Ink and Paint Club, or if the weasels use a gag on you in the factory, you will gain a barrel. Get to 5 barrels, and it's game over. Okay. Indications of the amount of barrels you have are dotted through the game, and in mini sections, so you'll sort of get an idea of where you're at in your barrel count, as it were. So let's talk about the first part then, because once you've got through the initial sort of Herman telling you what's going on, and you know the plot and everything else, you're going to get the first game, which is part 1, Benny the Cab. Here, you must drive Benny the Cab, who is a character from the film, and get ahead of the judge to arrive at the Ink and Paint Club first. The game sees you as Roger, sat in Benny the Cab, controlling things with the joystick. The game window here is split into a main section where you control Benny, and a small indicator at the bottom that shows your position against that of the judge. Principally, this is a race from A to B with obstacles in the way. Weasels in their Toon patrol wagons, heavy vehicles, etc., and things like that get in your way or drive at you, and you can either hop lanes to avoid them or jump over them, or on them even, with a powerful spring. And the spring is very powerful in this car. Another mighty bound, indeed.
A very mighty
something
bound.
which he doesn't ever do in the film. Just going to say, it never happens. He does raise his sort of legs up in the film and stuff like that, but he doesn't suddenly leap across the height of a building. That would be a bit off. There are also pools of dip that will pop Benny's tyres if he drives through them. And if it does do that, it costs you time and your position in the race, of course, against Dr. Doom. And of course, if he reaches the Ink and Paint Club before you do, then it's game over. Or at least it's an extra barrel, and then you have to sort of keep at it.
Mm-hmm.
A perfunctory scrolling vista of white buildings are meant to be 1940s Los Angeles, and that scrolls across the background as you race, maneuver, and shuffle to get to the end first. It's not very inspiring, I have to say, and the graphics look bitty and actually pretty badly drawn. Remember, this is from Disney, so you would have thought decent sprites at least would have been here, or background graphics. It's not very exciting, to say the least. And so when you do get to the end, and you will eventually get there, you'll get to the next section, which is the Ink and Paint Club. This is a pretty frustrating mini game that sees a series of tables arranged in sort of a restaurant speakeasy, a bit like the Ink and Paint Club in the actual film. Here you control Roger as he runs round 7 tables. The penguin waiters will drop off receipts on the tables in sets of 3 and a single shot of whiskey or alcohol or whatever it is. Since you don't know which one is the will, or which one of these has got these written on, you've got to collect them all. So that's the plan, is just collect all the receipts no matter what. So there isn't one specifically that you can find. You've just got to collect them all and keep going until you get them all. Obviously. So this means that you've got to run around and collect them all to complete the game. That's the purpose of this part. To do this, you will find you have to use the joystick to try and move from table to table, holding the fire button to pick up the receipts as you whirl around and avoiding the single alcoholic drink, which makes Roger go crazy. Just like in the movie. But something to note, though, that only happens a couple of times in the film, which keeps it kind of fresh and funny when it happens. You know, it happens once to show that he can do it, and it happens later in a key point when he has to escape from the clutches of Judge Doom.
It's Chekhov's gun. It's Chekhov's drink.
Yes, exactly. So when you repeatedly does this at this point, because you will accidentally drink that, and it stops him in his tracks. His eye goes sort of pixelated, and he emits this the famous Roger Rabbit woo,
yeah,
which is funny the first time you see it. Not so much the 5th or 6th. Though, because it just stops the action of the game in its tracks.
It's funny if you can really make out what it is.
Yeah, again, it sort of comes to sort of a more of a core problem, but yeah, exactly that. So it just keeps disrupting the game because you will keep catching it, and there's no way around that really because of the way that the game is sort of just a big run around, and it does become very annoying. Roger doesn't really have controls as such here. You directionally suggest him, though, so he goes from table to table. And he runs around and around that table, allowing you to collect the receipts. Along the bottom, the giant gorilla doorman security patrols there. And should you cross his path, he will grab you and throw you out of the club. And you've gained a barrel, damn you. So you need to navigate and collect them all up best you can. And the problem here is that, as you rightly point out, the graphics are a bit nondescript at times, and certainly this just feels like it goes on forever. Feels like it never ends. The more you collect, the more the penguins put out. You think, is there ever going to be a point when I'm going to collect all these? And I was playing this for ages and ages, and I can tell you, I just didn't collect them. And you've got till the band stops playing the music, and then it ends anyway. So I'm not sure that it's even achievable because they didn't seem to stop putting out the receipts. So anyway, That's just me. The graphics aren't terrible for this bit in the sense that the background graphics actually look a bit like the Amiga version. That's not that bad. The way the band is in the corner, the table layout, that's fine. Roger, okay, he looks a bit like Roger Rabbit, more like he did in the first than he did in sort of the first bits, so to speak, but he's still not particularly brilliant. They're not terrible. There's a cartoonish quality to the way that they animate and move around, and that looks okay. It's a close facsimile, albeit medium res to that, well, A-res, to the Amiga version, and it plays the same, but that's a problem, isn't it? Because it's pretty boring. The whole screen and the whole is used, so that all the tables area and the play area, and there's no UI in this bit, which would have been useful, actually, because the one bit that you need is to know how many receipts you've got left to collect. That would have been handy to know, because that, you don't have to be a guessing game, does it? So it just feels like it goes on and on and on and on. Collect too many alcohol shots, and you'll run out of luck, get grabbed by the gorilla, and you get thrown out of the club, and eventually you're going to run out of, or get too many barrels, and the game's over anyway, and it's back to the beginning level again, so back to where the cab you go. If you die, you die. You've got no pre-indication of any of that either, by the way, so I found that when I was reading into this a bit, a lot of people seem to get stuck at that level. Not many people made it to the third level, and perhaps by the time they did, maybe they didn't want to, let me tell you.
Mm.
So part 3 is the Gag Factory. Here we have a more formal, substitute the word formal for dreary, platform style game. This time you control Roger and must navigate the Acme factory levels, climbing, falling via the conveyors, using holes and other tricks and gags, and also picking up some of the classic Acme gags dotted about, which you can then use or misuse to cause the weasels you come across to laugh themselves to death and to get around the factory. The factory is set across 3 levels split across a number of flip screens, with some requiring gags to navigate successfully. So you use the joystick to move left and right, fire jumps unless you're holding a gag, which it then activates. Up and down is also pick up and drop, and you can use the fire to jump up the conveyor belts. These do vary from, the various gags, by the way, do vary from the Box-O-Matic mallet to the portable hole. They are all described in the instructions as well, and there's quite a lot of them, and you're meant to be able to identify them in the game and know what they do and what they're for. And I can tell you, you won't and you can't. But either way. Each of these, believe it or not, has a specific effect, which you're supposed to understand. And each of them can be used to either get laughs out of the weasels, or they will backfire on you, and then you will gain a barrel. You won't know when or how this happens, and you won't know how to use them and in what context. Some of them, believe it or not, you have to use to create paths between the levels. Otherwise, you can't finish this level. That isn't explained anywhere. And indeed, to actually get to the final boss, which is the judge, you have to use 2 specific holes in 2 specific areas. Otherwise, you can't complete the game anyway. That isn't explained anywhere in any of the instructions at all. You also want a time limit. At the bottom of the display, you will see Jessica Rabbit tied up on the far right of the screen with the judge's dip cannon and the judge slowly trundling towards her very menacingly, a bit like it sort of does in the film. Should the dip reach Jessica before you have disposed of all the weasels, it's game over. You won't believe it, you can't believe it, and you shan't believe it. But if you do manage to get rid of the weasels, you will then need to figure out how to get the drop on the judge and give him a taste of his own dip and win the game. Failure sees you lose and have to restart things. You won't realize that's what you have to do. Trust me. So the graphics here are very messy. Roger sprite is not as good as the Ink and Paint Club, and that ain't saying a lot. Indeed, the game feels less established and realized. It has a cartoon-like quality, but nothing is funny, and the control seems somewhat bitty. It feels underdeveloped with limited animations and background graphics, and it looks pretty basic for a Disney game, I have to say. Not a lot of stuff is happening in this. Graphics are all medium res yellows and browns with a UI that shows you your current gag that you're holding, not that you'll easily identify. The mallet you might recognize, but some of the others you won't know what they are. It's not easy to see what they are, or really what they're supposed to do, or of an indication of whether they've succeeded or not. They can backfire as well, and when they do, you won't have any idea apart from suddenly you'll find you've gained a barrel, and you won't understand why, and you go back to the beginning of that level again until you die. It's an endless thing as well. The Ink and Paint, like the Ink and Paint Club, this level goes on and on and on and on and on because there's very little in it. The weasels that are in it appear sporadically through the level here and there. The judge isn't even in it till the very bottom anyway. It's pretty empty as it goes, and it's just wandering around a factory. Not very exciting, is it?
Nope.
So among the games, between the games, there's some nice graphics. Baby Herman has some nice drawn screens, as you'd expect, because they're taken from the Amiga screen. So the still screens, where they're versions of the Amiga ones, they look pretty good. And some of the screens with Roger as well, they look pretty good. Like when you lose or anything like that, it all looks nice. Even with the loading extra, there's some little details that work sort of here and there too. Getting thrown out of the Ink and Paint Club, there's a little animated scene there. That looks quite nice as well, straight out of the Amiga again. But on the whole, there are 3 mini games here, and only one of them is borderline fun. And I say that, and using that term very loosely, borderline. It's like, The first and the third is a dreary car chase race, and the last is a dull wander around a factory. Though I suspect it was beyond the possibilities of licensing, having other cartoon characters, or even maybe just the Roger Rabbit ones. So it doesn't, just the ones from Roger Rabbit, Eddie Valiant, the Weasels have more of that in it. So I have more of that in here. It might have been great, but it's probably beyond the scope of the license. Okay, fine. But I feel sure there were more ways to create fun with the characters and story and possibilities for minigames than this. This game astonishingly shows a lack of imagination in a film driven by the notion of imagination. It beggars belief. The film is centered around Eddie Valiant, losing his notion of fun through personal loss and despair, with Roger's escapade and his becoming a chance for Eddie Valiant to redeem himself, come to terms with his loss, and find his own sense of fun and purpose along the way. And then he remembers who he was all along. So to take all of that out and make it a chase, running in circles and walking around an empty factory, well, to paraphrase Roger himself, come on, where's the sense of humour? I found this game a shocking indictment of boredom on a license that is hardly described as boring. It's crazy. I don't know how you do it. How do you take Roger Rabbit and make it boring as a game? I don't know how you do it. It's a skill. What did you think?
Yeah,
I'll do it.
That was my first thing. First things first. Why is this disc only? Why is this a multi-load? I mean, you think about some of the games we've seen where they cram into 64K.
Yeah,
and it's like, why is this a multi-load? There's none of those bits seem like, oh yeah, I can see why. Like one of them, like the second game, it's just one bloody screen.
Yep.
Oh, one of the most fun and original films of the 80s is reduced to this multi-event bore-a-thon. Slowly driving along, then trying to pick up napkins with ugly visuals and horrible sound effects, and none of the wit, charm, and originality of the film has been brought over to this. Zilch. The driving section is flawed by the stupid bounce that sees you hit cars or go into paint with no control over it. So half the time you'd jump over something and then you'd hit a car coming along again, or you'd have to jump over the paint.
Oh, yeah.
You couldn't do that. So
no logic.
So it's that crap random number generator. Generate a car here with no thought. Yep. Well, we've generated paint and there's a car there. There's no way for the player to avoid these rubbish. And top it off is boring. The second sequence, I found it really unresponsive. Trying to go around the tables, trying to pick up stuff. Sometimes it responds, sometimes it wouldn't. I found it really annoying. And like I said, that bit when you actually do the drink and he does his big thing and turns into the steam whistle. It took me about 4 times that I did that, where I was like, oh, is that the steam whistle? He's just turned into a big orange, yellow blur. Oh, God, no.
Ain't good.
I don't know what they were thinking when they did this, but at some point, someone should have pointed out to them that this is so far removed from the film that it's lost all relevance. That I looked at some of the screenshots for the third bit. What is that red bit in the bottom right-hand corner? That's supposed to be Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
It's supposed to be Jessica Rabbit up on a wall. It's just some red pixels. Like, there's a point. There's a point when you've just got to go, hang on, we can't do what the Amiga version's doing and the ST version's doing, because they can represent, they've got a much higher resolution. We can actually see, if you look at the Amiga version, it looks like Jessica Rabbit. Small at the bottom, fine. We can do that. Just get rid of that. Take it off the screen. Show it at the beginning of something. Think, right, how do we transfer this to a C64 and show it? Well, show the weasels coming to it like that and have a countdown, or something like that somewhere on the screen. You don't need to see the things at the bottom moving. Give you more screen to do some more interesting stuff with the thing. It's just rubbish. It's just dreadful, this. It's 15 quid. It's disc only for no reason, apart from it's coming from America, obviously, and they don't believe in tapes.
No, that's true. That's why.
And so I get it, sort of thing. But there's no reason why it's a multi-load, because that's what they do in disc-based games in America. I understand. But this could have been on tape, and it shouldn't have been that. There's not enough content here for 3 bloody loads. Yeah, some of those static screens are all right, because they're just C64 versions of the Amiga version. And we've seen better versions of them with things like Defender of the Crown, anything by Cinemaware. They've managed to outdo Three Stooges here in taking something that's a comedy and removing the comedy from it. I thought the Munsters was going to be the worst licensed game we played this week based on a comedy type thing. I was wrong. I was very wrong, because we got Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Please, Eddie, don't make this game. Just don't. It's just dreadful.
Yeah, not good.
My comment here is Who Ruined Roger Rabbit would have been a better title.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, rubbish. Just rubbish. 28% was
shocking, really, isn't it?
Because there's no game. There's no game to this. There's nothing to do that's in any way enjoyable.
No.
Rubbish. Let's move on.
They did a bad thing.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they fired dum-dums. Let's go on. Let's move along. Let's get out. I can't talk about any more. It's rubbish.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah. And on to our next one. And our next one is nice and simple. It's mini golf. Mini golf.
Bit of malt.
£10, got 57%. We're in average town. Which is good, actually. It might be an average town after the crap town we've been in. This is our second miniature golf game, if I remember correctly. I think we had that mini putt from Accolade.
Yes. We did. It was pretty good.
This time it's Gremlin Graphics.
Ooh.
Have brought us this game from the publisher Magic Bytes. And the coder was Frank Winkenmeyer.
Him.
Frank
Winkenmeyer.
Yeah, and it's got music by George Brandt.
Okay.
Anyway, after the game loads, it's got a nice title screen with what looks like someone playing the most complex hole in mini golf history. It's like I was looking at it going, you can't do that in the hole in one. There's no way. There's no way you could calculate where to hit that to get a hole in one. What it does have, though, on that loader, is a really, really great piece of music.
Oh, you really liked the music for this one, didn't you?
I thought it was fantastic. It doesn't sound like a C64 tune. There's a weird sound to it. There's a weird quality to it. I don't know what it is about it, but I thought it was great. Really fast, really great drum samples or sounds. Just great. I was sat listening to this for ages. I was like, this is really good. I think it might have just been the fact that I'd been brainwashed by the Munsters theme tune and things like that. But I thought the loading tune to this was... I even went off to... I thought... Is this the right one? But then I went off and sort of hunted it down on SID Play and HVCSC, whatever it's called, and I had a listen and found it there. And I was like, oh, it's the same one. Yeah, this is really good. If you get a bit of time, have a listen to the loading music disc. It's really, really good. Anyway, after that, once that's loaded, we get a really simple title screen. It's just a scorecard for the round of golf. Like, okay, it's a bit simple, and a prompt for how many players.
Nice and basic.
It's very nice and basic, yeah. But you get a prompt for how many players. So you can play 1 to 4. You can have up to 4 players for this. You press the number keys to select and then space to start, and that's it. We're into the game. Nice and simple. So yeah, it's a mini golf game. This also came out on the Amiga and other machines. They had some smart visuals and different courses with different viewpoints and all kind of crazy stuff on top. Here on the C64, we just get one set of holes and a basic top-down single screen view of the action. That's what we get. So we get 18 holes. At the top of the screen, we have the hole number, the par for the hole, and the number of shots taken so far. All you need for a mini golf game. That's all you really need. The rest of the screen shows the hole, and it all fits on one screen, as I said, for all 18 of them. The graphics, like I said, are from the top down. There are things like bushes and bumps and hills and tubes represented by fairly basic shading, but they do the job. You can kind of make out what they are. The sort of ups and downs, and there's a bit of shading for shadowing and stuff. So you kind of see, oh, that's a hill and that goes down, and you can make it out. The hole is a grey hole that'll be somewhere on the screen, and somewhere else on the screen there's a white rectangle, and you start by placing your ball anywhere within that white rectangle. So it's like, start from one point, you've got a small white rectangle, place your ball in that, and that's the starting area. Once you put your ball in there, pressing the fire places the ball, and then you move your joystick to aim. So you aim with a little crosshair that you move about. And as you do, you'll see a line stretching from your ball to your crosshair, which you're moving about. The longer the line, the more power you'll hit the ball with. It's that simple. So you can't just aim at a wall if the wall's quite close to you, because it'll hit it quite softly. So you have to kind of carry on the shot, going way out if you want to hit it quite powerfully. So the longer the line, so it's just simple. The longer the line, the harder you'll hit it. That's it. So once you're happy with the direction and power, you press fire and the ball is hit. The ball is animated as it rolls around, and I thought the physics were generally pretty good as the ball bounces off walls at the angles you'd expect. Goes up and down hills, sort of loses speed, drops back down, goes in curves. It all kind of works. Didn't have any real problem with the actual physics in this and the way that it bounces around and moves around and whatever. Should you do well and score a hole in one, you'll get a small tune, a weird little tune. That's the only other bit of sound in this, apart from some as it hits walls and stuff. There's not much sound to this. After that great loading screen tune, I was expecting something decent, but it's like when you score a hole in one, it's like, what was that?
Oh, that bloody fanfare.
Yeah. It's like, okay. But whatever. Should you take too many shots, the game just automatically gets fed up and moves you on to the next hole. I did like that. It's like, oh, you're rubbish. Just go do the next one. to save, and that kind of saves growing frustration. If you just cannot get it up a hill or something, it's like, I can't, and he just moves you on. You're done. And really, there's 18 holes of varying difficulty. There's tubes, there's hills. You knock it down, but there's no scrolling in this. It's all on one screen, so it's kind of is what it is. It's just a C64 screen of pixels with various layouts of mini golf holes, and that's really about it. You just go through the holes one after the other, 1 to 18. When you finish, you get to your total shots. And if you're playing in multiplayer, you see everyone's total shots, and that's about it. And then you can start again. And I mean, there's really very little to say about this. It plays fine. But I imagine once you've figured out the sweet spot of aiming and power, I imagine you could ace this pretty easily because, the physics will be the physics. If you know where to put your power and you know where to put your aim, you could get holding one all the time, I'd imagine. I could imagine it might be a bit of fun with a few mates on a rainy afternoon. But I found that the lack of atmosphere lets it down somewhat. It's just really a bit dry and dull and a bit needed sound effects or something around a woo or applause and things and those kind of things. Something. So I know it's mini golf and not crazy golf. I get there's a difference, obviously, but it doesn't mean we can't have something else to keep us entertained. Even if the sound effects are a little more consistent, like I said, some music playing, anything really. As it is, it's well programmed, it's well put together, it all works. If you want to simulate mini golf, I'm sure it'll entertain you, but I don't think you'd be coming back to this too often. I think the skill limit is just a little too low on this one. You'd learn it quite quickly and just move on. $9.99 seems a bit much for this. If this was a budget title and this has got budget mini golf written all over it, I'd think they'd have been like, yeah, this is pretty good. £2 for this, yeah, it's fine. Tenner though, up against Accolade's mini putt, nah. Can't see it myself. It's not terrible, but it's not £10 good. It's £2 decent, and that's what I think of you, Harvey. What do you think?
Exactly the same. Very expensive game given what you get with it and how simple it is. I mean, it's simple and effective. I like the way you set out the angle and the power. Snooker games take note, I think.
Yeah.
Graphics, obviously on the basic side, but it's fast to get into. There's a kind of sense of achievement, albeit that little fanfare will drive you crazy in the end when you pull off some of the more fluky, shots that you do. I'm just not sure how much real skill there is in it, but for a few players, it might be fun, but it's not at a budget cost, and that's its, killer blow. This is a budget game written all over. This is budget. This is $1.99 all over it. Had it been that, might have scored better, but for me, £10 for this, no thanks. I'll play leaderboard. I'll play proper golf, thanks. No, and but in fact, leaderboard's budget by now, isn't it? We said so.
Yeah, Gremlin were having a bit of taking the piss a bit with this. £10.
Yeah, £10 a rip off for this. It's no.
Put it on your budget label.
No, I mean, I tell you what I did like, which is odd. The transition between holes effect was quite interesting.
Oh, the way it sort of pixelates out and pixelates back in.
Yeah. It's not often you see that. That's I haven't seen that outside of demos, and that's fairly recent one. So interesting that they did that. But other than that,
yeah, nice.
I did like this game. It's likable, just too expensive.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah,
like I said, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's fine. It's quick and it's easy and no slowdown and it bounces around and stuff. But it's a budget game.
It's a bloody rip off.
There you go. Mini golf should have been £2. Let's move on because we do have a budget game coming up. And that, Graham, is over to you to tell us all about Orion.
So Orion is from Racket, or Hewson, as we like to call them. Budget Hewson. It's $2.99. It was 46%, though, in the old Zap. It was developed by Graphgold, or at least it's Graphgold people. Coded by Gary J. Foreman. The graphics by John Cumming. And the musician is Jason Page. Now, Jason Page is a very talented fellow. This is the first piece he ever did, age 16. And he's still making music to this day. And that includes C64 compositions, some of which are genuinely brilliant. If you check him out on Sid Play, you'll note that some of his compositions are from 2023. He's even worked with Rob Hubbard and done loads of recent compositions for him as well. I worked with him. Very, very clever guy. So Jason Page, I salute ye. The music here is also very, very good. And considering you were 16 when you made it, my hat has been doffed. Very nice job. So to the story then, and I can't remember if I had to derive this from... I couldn't find a lot of info about Orion. So I've gathered what I can from the various usual sources, the Moby games and things like that. The stars in the constellation of Orion are unstable and the formation is distorting. To save it is to redress the chemical balance. You need to visit mining colonies and take the chemicals required. Now, I suspect you need a lot of chemicals for that, but okay. Problem is, the mines needed are under control by evil aliens. Aren't they always? The first thing the evil aliens do is take over your mines. So it's by no means going to be easy. In fact, you're going to need to take these things by force. You take control of the hero as he walks across the mining colonies, viewed from the side. The joystick moves your player, while the fire button fires your weapon. Also seen on screen is your score, shield, and life. I get the feeling at that point that the person who wrote that for Moby Games was just looking at the screen when he was reading it.
Yeah,
he went all a bit. He went a bit Roy Walker there. Didn't he? That just say what, just anyway. We haven't got them in a while. The game starts with a nice title screen, standard logo credits formation in there. So with token rolling raster bars and high scores, a somewhat tricky read with that scale and that typeface, but that's what it is. It's kind of you know what you're going to get. Rolling rasters behind the text. La da 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 da.
Yeah.
Clicking fire sees you have to enter your ID or your initials, really, for the mission computer. Do that, and you'll arrive on the planet selection screen. Here, you can choose the planet from which you will start the quest for your chemicals. You can choose from Auriga, Regulus, Ara, and Deimos. I'm feeling that we've come across some of those names before.
Yeah.
Regulus in Star Trek, I think. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And under that, you are given the chemicals you are required to collect. Initially, this is water, H2O. H2O. Once you have settled on a planet, you press fire to transport, and you will arrive on the main game screen.
You will.
The top quarter is the UI, composed of text detailing your initials, the chemical formula you are looking for. Under that is your shield, health bar, and next to that, the radiation indication. Under that, your remaining men and score. It's a little bit bitty, though, that UI. Yeah. It's less you and more I think it's safe to say on that. Or less I and more you. I'm not sure
saying
which
I'm bitty.
Yes. No.
Yeah, okay.
The game window below takes up the rest of the screen. Since I started on Auriga, which is why I chose to start, I was presented with a somewhat Greek-Roman ruins-inspired landscape with large columns, pillars, and slabs in grey. Your player character looks a lot like a stormtrooper from Star Wars, and you will arrive front and center. You will then use the joystick to walk left and right, looking for chemical elements and blasting the endless enemies that will attack you. Enemies will appear flying, or sometimes they will walk through doors that are mysteriously dotted around. They vary from characters the same size as you to smaller ones that kind of wave around and annoy you. It's principally a walk and shoot game or a walk and collect game, whichever you want to look at it. Anyway, you can jump up and essentially navigate your way left and right across the landscape. You can also crouch down and shoot and crouch if you want to. All useful, I guess, maybe. It's essentially like a ploddy Hawkeye, only without much of the brouhaha.
Porkeye?
Porkeye. Oh, dear. Nobody wanted Porkeye.
Sounds like you get some of you hanging around farms too much.
Yeah, you've got a severe case of pork eye.
Stop going in those sties.
Anyway, so it's essentially that. As you walk and shoot, occasionally you will see a pod get dropped with a letter on it. You can shoot that or collect these. Because that's the chemical that you're looking for, I think, or extra weapons. I think it's a bit vague at this point.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure what I was doing, and I just started to I wasn't quite sure what chemicals I was collecting, or if indeed I even collected any. I think you keep shooting and walking until you get the chemical you're looking for, upon which you're taken back to the selection screen. But I've no idea if that's how it works. No idea. But that's how it played for me. I could find no decent instructions, so I went with what I could ascertain. If you lose a life, you are taken back to the selection screen and can choose another planet or go back to the same one. The graphics are different for each, so there's at least variety between them. Some are more brown, some are more slabby, some are different. You're on different planets. Outside of all of that logic, I didn't see much else going on, I have to say. Jump between planets, look for chemicals, and shoot at things that shoot and kill you. And if you don't, and so you sort of shoot first and run away. Navigating the bumps, jumps, and falls of the planet, it's all a bit thankless, isn't it? And it's colourful, I suppose, in some places, but otherwise it's not. And it's all a bit boring. There's some nice details. The music and sound is excellent, with really nice thuddy footsteps again. What is it with these thunderous footsteps of these walking around? But okay, it is what it is. And there's some nice filtered sounds in here as well. The look of the game is pretty good in places. Some levels look better than others, and the sprites are reasonable. And sometimes they look better on other levels than they do. And I think it's just the choice of colours. The first level, for example, I was kind of a greyish looking character in white and grey. on greyish white backgrounds. It kind of just didn't look very good. The controls were okay. I suppose you could describe them as responsive, and they do what you want them to do if you want to do it, which you probably won't after a while because it gets a bit mundane. But it's just a tad on the thoughtless side for the whole game, really. Everything's just a bit thoughtless and a bit dull and a bit rote and it just lacks excitement. And it's pretty challenging as it goes as well, because you're getting attacked all the time. And there's people, I tell you what, right? Those doors, I mean, there was so many aliens coming in and out of those doors. Goodness me, it's like it's door world, isn't it? It's doors,
You either want to be in or you want to be out. Pick one and stay there.
Well, it's that, I don't, if you haven't seen their Rick and Morty, have you, with real fake doors? But it's real fake doors. I get all over again. Real fake doors. We can buy you real fake doors here. It's that. It's just, and I suppose it's not a massive issue. It's £3, isn't it? So I suppose, could you say that there's value for money for £3? I suppose that's its only saving grace, is that at least you're not getting charged full price for this. But it's just not got much depth to it. The graphics and sounds, the graphics are okay. The sound is pretty good and the music very good. And the controls are okay. It's just more walking, shooting and mindless plodding though. And we've done loads of that. Loads of it in other games. There's other budget games like this that are better. Zamzara is better than this. And that's a sort of a similar kind of game and a similar budget price. In fact, it's cheaper. So, and it's also, isn't that Racket as well?
Quite possibly, yeah.
They're fighting each other. The games have taken root in the past. It is done. Facing each other. I am mixing my films there. That's a mixture of bloody all sorts. That's Conan and Arthur mixing together.
And there can be only one.
God, and Highlander. It's got this too much. We'll be throwing Zardoz into the mix in a minute.
There's too many swords in the broth.
If you come running in a minute in a mankini shouting in a Sean Connery accent, all going to go horribly wrong in it. It's not a perfect game, this. It's better than Zapped made it out to be, though. I'm going to say this because I think it needs to be said. They gave it a 46%. Now, I'm not saying this game is amazing, because it's not. And it does have its faults, but it is only budget price at £3. And for £3, there's probably enough game in there, albeit it might be a bit boring, with some good music and some good graphics to warrant a bit of a higher score than 46. I think it's above average. I would have put it more in the 60s. It's nowhere near perfect, but Zapped scores seem to be really kicking the games that are crap, kicking the games that are good in the balls and giving them really odd scores that don't quite work, or the games that are really don't deserve the scores. They seem to be getting higher scores. It all seems a little bit mishmash, and I don't get it. I don't think it's a fair score for this game, considering its price, when there's been other games that have been far more expensive that are, they've been getting sort of an easy ride of it. So no, for £3, you might have enjoyed it, but it's worth probably going and playing because you want to listen to the Jason Page music, which is really good. So other than that, what about you? Poor guy. I don't want to play Pork Eye.
No one does. What to make of this? It's some kind of bi-directional running scroller where you have to collect things. You won't want to, though. I think you like this more than I did, but I don't even know because I found the controls and shooting really annoying. I found trying to navigate the landscape was tricky. On the first planet, Ariga, I walked to the right, was instantly killed.
Did that happen?
Yeah, it shouldn't do. It shouldn't.
No,
you've put me facing to the right, so I'm going to walk to the right. That's the way you're doing it. And it's never a good way to start your game. That I've actually got to jump up, or there's some killer, I don't know, like waves or something. How was I supposed to know? It's just, the visuals are odd. I found the sprites are really weird. Strange mix of colours. There's no seam over, where, like you said, look like a stormtrooper, but there's no kind of overarching design to the whole thing. Why am I going around ancient Greek pillars and stuff? It's very odd. Yeah, the sound and music are okay. I didn't like them, I think, as much as you did, but they're all right. £3. It's not a great game. I think I got bored of it pretty quickly. I think you would get, but I don't know. There's some nice presentation around the edges and some frippery and stuff like that, but I think the main game, as you rightly said, is just wandering along, and we've done this a lot, and it's just, I don't know. There's not enough payoff. There's not enough payoff to the thing. I need, if I'm collecting stuff, because essentially, if you think, we've done bi-directional scrolling, collecting stuff to do stuff in something, a small game called Whizball.
Yes. True.
Ages ago.
True.
It's that's the core crux of this, isn't it? Samsara meets Whizball, should we say?
Oh, yeah.
And
derivative.
So, yeah. And I just could play Whizball, wouldn't you? I don't know.
Yeah, you probably would, but yeah. There seems to be a few of these, doesn't there, at the moment?
Yeah, I can see what they're trying to do, and I get it. Not going to. And I suppose for £3, they're not taking the piss. It's like, we know it's not brilliant. It's £3, and yeah, okay. Fair enough. I didn't. Yeah, it didn't annoy me as things like the Munsters and stuff did with its terrible game design. But there you go. That's Orion. Could have done with a belt or something in it.
Yes, astronomy humour.
Yeah,
very good. I like it.
I'm always there for astronomy humour.
Very good. Yes,
you're welcome.
Brian May approves.
Who does?
Brian May.
I thought it meant Brian Cox. He'd approve as well.
I don't know that he's into astronomy, but Brian May is a doctor of astronomy.
I thought Brian May. No, so Brian Cox is always doing his stuff about space and stars and shit.
Is he?
Yeah. Brian Cox, the scientist guy.
Oh, the scientist guy, yeah. For some reason I was thinking you meant the guy that played Hannibal Lecter in Manhunter.
He's also Brian Cox, I think. There's two of them. Am I thinking of the wrong one?
You can't have two Cox in the room.
not on a May as well. May I have two Cox in the room? No, you may not.
Is it Dr. Brian Cox? It probably is.
I'm pretty sure it is. I don't know.
Is the guy a dream,
isn't
he?
Yeah, they're both, yes. And Brian Cox is the actor. Brian Cox is a physicist. There's also a Brian Cox.
122 episodes, and then two Cox come along at the same time.
And there's also an American coach called Brian Cox. Popular name.
It is, yes.
Anyway, enough of those things. Let's move on to our last game of the month. Oh dear, and our last game of the month is Grand Prix Circuit. Accolade, $9.95. It's got 79%. I might have some things to say about that score.
Oh, I can tell I'm going to agree with you already.
Okay, to round out the month, we take to the tracks of the 1980s Formula One courses in Grand Prix Circuit from Accolade. No story here, just straight out F1 racing thrills and spills. This was developed by Distinctive Software for Accolade, which means we have Don Matrick and Brad Gore on design, Frank Barchard and Kevin P. Pickle on code, John Berchler on graphics, and finally Chris Hatelilid as the musician. Just so he's the musician. It sounds like he's the musician. Bit of an interesting cover, this one. I sort of mentioned the cover of this. Reminded me of the Zapped leaderboard issue.
Yes, actually, yes.
Similar design. Because he's got a close-up of a sort of an attractive Formula One. I'm not sure if she's one of the girls on the Formula One track. It's an attractive girl, all big hair, very 80s, and she's wearing a pair of mirrored sunglasses, and in the reflection of her sunglasses is the iconic Marlboro F1 car. I don't know if it's the McLaren or the Ferrari, because they're both in this game. I thought it's a really good cover. It's a really nice, unusual looking from some of the games we do see and things like that.
Completely.
But it's also interesting just because it's obviously the Marlboro, thing, which is way before advertising for cigarettes was banned in most places. So it's weird to see that because it is an iconic car, that Marlboro car from the 1980s. It's the one I had for my. Yeah. It's one I had for my Scale Electric. So I just remember it. Anyway. Game takes a while to load, but it's Accolade. So again, it's got a loading bar. Always nice to see loading bars. So we're not left guessing how long is left. And once it does, there's a decent piece of music. It's all right. Weird piece of music, but it's okay. There's a nice animated Accolade logo, so nice front end. And it's followed by a good drawing of an F1 car on a giant checkerboard for some reason. Not quite sure why, but it's just there. It's good drawing, but I don't know why it's on a checkerboard. I suppose it's easier to draw than an actual landscape, I guess. I don't know. It's followed by more animated logos and some screens from the game with the car select screens. It's very good. It's very nice front end. It looks the part, it's sort of rolling demo thing. And even if you do leave it long enough, it will actually go to a demo mode of the game. So this is really nice front end. There's music playing. You've got these multiple screens flicking through. All good. All looks nice. It's standout front end as far as I'm concerned. Early indication of the polish and quality present in this game. So, Pressing Fire gets us to the simple to understand. We've seen these kind of menus from Accolade before. Simple to understand, but well presented menu screen. Easy. They're really good with their UIs, I think, Accolade. Really simple to navigate with a joystick. Nice and easy. And you've got three choices. At the top, you've got practice. So you can have a practice. You've got single race, or there's full-on championship across the game's 8 included tracks. Below that, you can set the difficulty from level 1 to level 5. with 1 being beginner, up to 5, which is the pro level. At level 1, it has automatic gears, and you can't damage the car if you go off track and everything and bounce into other cars. And the opponents drive like it's a Sunday, so they're easy to pass and stuff. On level 5, it's all manual. The other racers will destroy you, and when you make a mistake, and you can damage the car and things like that. So all that kind of stuff is on the table. But the option to introduce different elements like manual gears and damage as you go higher on up the difficulty level does give you some degree of control of what kind of challenge you want. So as you go to 2, you add in, I think it's still automatic gears, but it adds in damage. So then you get to manual gears and steering and better AI on the opponents as you go up. Good, excellent stuff. Really, really simple, easy. And it outlines all this in the instructions as well. So it tells you all this. The instructions are really good for this game. You can also enter your name here as well. So you just put your name in, and you can set how many laps you want to either race in the practice or the single game or the championship. You set it when you want. What I'll do is I'll quickly outline the modes. So practice, which is simply, it's just you on an empty track trying to get used to the game for as many laps as you've put in, and that's it. So it's a practice, and it's just, that's it. But I'll go now on to the next one. So single race, the first thing you do in a single race is you've got to select what track you want to race on. And you've got 8 real world tracks that are all accurately represented. We've not really seen this properly, I don't really think, since we had Pit Stop 2. There may have been other racing games that have done proper tracks, I can't remember, but this does it, like Pit Stop 2 did. So the tracks here are Autodromo de Cidade in Rio de Janeiro, Circuit de Monaco, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. We've got the Detroit Grand Prix Circuit, Silverstone Circuit in England, Hockenheim Ring in Germany, Monza in Italy, and finally Suzuka in Japan. All, iconic tracks from the 80s. These, they're well known. Even now, they're well known. After that, you get to choose your car from either the Ferrari, the McLaren, or the Williams F1 cars. These screens show a number of stats about the car. I'm not going to go through all the stats, but there's loads of them about how many gears and all that kind of stuff. And they're all different. So the Ferrari is the basic one, the Williams is the all-rounder, and the McLaren is the bullet, as they call it in the instructions. So when you pick one of those cars, the background behind the car begins to scroll past as the car drives off for the race. It doesn't just sort of go flick off. It's like you start driving off and the crowd goes past in the background, really nicely doing, slowly picking up speed as it sort of and then whizzes off the side of the screen. Great touch. And like I said, all this is really easily navigated with the joystick, keys for the names and number of laps. Dead simple, dead easy to all do. From here, you're into the race. I'll talk about the championship bit in a bit, but we'll talk about the race in here. And the race is seen from a first-person viewpoint in the seat of the car. The layout of the screen has the controls of the car in the bottom half, and then your 3D view of the track taking up the top half of the screen. It's a nice effect because obviously what they've done is it's allowed themselves to, the screen update is probably for most of the top half of the screen. But the kind of lower half is taken up with most what you would call UI. So it's the interior of the car. So it lets them sort of get away with that, but it puts you in that view, kind of like Revs, similar to Revs. If you remember Revs, it's similar to that. Yeah. So you've got those sort of two splits. The car is represented in nice detail, and each car is represented differently. So all the 3 cars are represented individually. It's not just the same car, repeated 3 times. And so the wheel takes up the center of the display mostly. So you've got the wheel in the middle. To the right is the gear shifter that pops up and on screen. So you've got the gear shifter, and it even has down to the detail of having 5 speed options for the Ferrari. It's got 6 speed for the McLaren and the Williams, so it's not the same gear shift for each one. They're all different. Also, like I said, the interior of each car is individually different. To the top left and right in the car section of the display, so in the bottom half, you've got fully animated rear view mirrors, so wing mirrors, which show the track behind you and any cars approaching, so you can react accordingly. There's also the speedo, which is a digital speedo, which is above the steering wheel, and the rev counter, which is fully animated as well, and that's sort of in the middle of your steering wheel. Next to the speedo as well is a little bar, and that's your damage meter that slowly fills up as you take damage if you're on a difficulty level where damage is applicable. The track view shows the track in front of you, and it's not like we've seen so many times before. It's not just a raster bar highway. It's a solid piece of road with white stripes down the middle, rumble strips on either side. it looks like a road. It looks like you're looking out over the cockpit of a, so it's 3D, it's a C64 version, but it looks like you're looking out the cockpit of a Formula One car down a road. They've done a really good effect of this. It's really nice. In the distance, we've got various things. We go around the track, the stadiums, the hills. They're all nicely drawn and scroll smoothly back and forth as you go left and right. As you turn around the bends, there are also animated clouds that go across in the sky, and there's planes. I think it's a plane. It's the dot that flies across. So then the clouds float across as well when you're going straight. It's all great. There's a really nice bumpy effect as you drive. So it's not just a sort of really smooth road. There's a bump. You feel like as you're going. You could, if you had a rumble joystick, this would be rumbling, and you would feel that rumble sort of thing. It's like you can see it. This view is jerking about as if you're, and it gets more juddery the faster you go. This is great. I had a look at Revs. Revs is really smooth. It doesn't do this. This is not a smooth ride, and there's a good sense of speed and solidity to the environments and the road you're on. It looks like a road. Maybe it's just because I've seen so many of these things like Veclemons and super trucks and all these kind of rastabar things. It's just great to see what looks like a proper road. Controls are simple enough, with up and down for acceleration and brake. Pressing fire with up or down sees you change gear in manual mode accordingly. Steering is via a dot on the steering wheel, so you've got a dot, and so you move left and right. So it's kind of analog with a digital input, which works fine. So as farther it moves out from the center, the harder you turn. I think we saw this first in Test Drive, before that in Revs. I think they used the same method, but it seems to work better here than it did in Test Drive. It seems to work a hell of a lot better. So they've obviously, worked on it and made it work better. And I could actually get decent control with this and get some decent laps. When I got used to it and I was concentrating, I was starting to put in some decent laps in this game. There are road markers as well for warning of upcoming corners. They go from 100 or 200 to 100 to 50, to warn you, you need to turn in, slow down. And they're good. They're easy, and they're readable as well. So you can read them. They're not just there as, just blurs. You can read them. You got a map in the top left, and a race info box in the top right of the screen. This is in the full top right, showing your present lap time, position, and total time. And these can even be turned off or on with the M key for the map and the S key for the stats. Obvious keyboard shortcuts. M for map, S for stats. Learn.
Keep it simple, yeah.
Yeah. There's a really good sense of speed to this once you get up to like 200 miles an hour. And although the frame rate is not what we expect today, it's solid enough for you to get used to it. And there's no slowdown that I encountered. There are 9 other drivers on the road as well when racing in the competitions, and they all have their own temperaments as well, with some being better than others. And this is all listed in the instructions. Like I said, above the steering wheel is a damage bar that starts out as green. Should it fill up, you'll need to enter the pits at the start of the next lap, and you've got to slow down for them. Don't do what I did and just drive through them, thinking it'd be automatic. I just went, I was like, oh, damn. I can imagine my pit crew went, oh, stupid idiot, slow down. So if you slow down in them, you get this, it's a brief load. Then there's a top-down view of the car, really nicely drawn, and you can choose to swap out your tyres. So you can swap out left or right. Your car takes up most of the screen, and then like your little sort of animated guy sort of slide on sort of thing with an unscrew them, so unpull the notes, pull the it's all top down. They pull the wheels off and then put the next ones on and pull them off, and then off you go, you start off again. So the races start with you having to qualify, and once done, you're informed of your position and it's into the race proper. At the end of a race, you get your stats with best lap, top speed, all that kind of thing. So there's no problem. If you're in full-on championship mode, then obviously from championship, you race through all 8 tracks in sequence. You can save and load a game so it's a slightly different start sequence where you'll sort of tell you, all right, these are the people you're racing against. This is the points total. At this point, you can save and load a game. And like I said, you get the ongoing table. At the end of a race as well, there's a full-on animated sort of sequence where if you're on the podium, you are spraying champagne everywhere, and there's cars and there's people, cheering and everything, and you press fire and you're back to the main thing, and it's like that. I have to say that I was very impressed with this. I've never played it before, never seen it. There's so much attention to detail, and Revs probably has a smoother frame rate. I think this is doing more. I found the races here felt a bit better with all the trackside details. The other cars are really well drawn as well. I didn't mention the other cars. They look like, they're a bit boxy, but they look like other Formula One cars. They're in thingy. There's no slowdown. You can go round them. I found that, it looked really good. The sense of being in a fast car was there. The shaking viewpoint really added to the immersive nature of this. I was really enjoying myself with it, pulling back as hard as I could on the joystick to put the brakes in and ramming it round to the corner and then trying to apex corners and, fully on speed out of them. For the C64, for me, I didn't think I'd beat Pit Stop 2, but here we are. Pinnacle of racing games as far as what we've looked at so far. I thought this one. I didn't think there was going to be anything to beat Pit Stop 2, which has always been my favourite. This did it for me. I thought this was really, really good. The different cockpits for the cars, the choice of circuits, there's 8 rather than Pit Stop 2, 6. Obviously, there's a lot more loading. The modes from simple practice to full-on championship, 5 levels of difficulty offer a real sense of progression as you get better. And I did find myself getting better as well as I learned to adjust the corners and got used to the steering controls. Which I never seemed to get the hang of in games that used this kind of control system previously. I didn't like Test Drive. I didn't really get on with revs. I found it a bit annoying. This seemed to just click with me. The loading is a bit onerous at times, but, it's easily overcome these days. And after all those trips down the Rastabar Highway, this was a welcome reminder that the C64 in the right hands really can still surprise you with what it's capable of. Accolade. They're just the best. What can I say? They're just knocking out the park consistently with they take us, they just do something and go, right, this is how you do this sport. Most of the time.
Absolutely.
79% is a travesty. It's a travesty. Yeah. This is a sizzler towards gold medal all day long. I can't see how you're going to do F1 better on the C64. For a C64 to be pulling this off, I was like, when I tested it, I think I messaged you going, this Grand Prix Circuit is a bit special.
Yeah, you did.
And when I played it properly to do the review, I was even more impressed with all the options and the smoothness of it, and just the way it all clicks together. They're just clearly there's just very, very good game designers at Accolade. Very clearly, very talented technically, but also people who think about your journey through the game, and how you're going to interact with any moment of it. And I just loved this. I thought it was brilliant. I don't know what a out of nowhere for the end of April. Amazing. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I cannot understand the Zapped review for this. I cannot. I know they review the tape version. They cite loads of slow loading on the tape. Maybe that's what did it. I don't know. But this is hands down the best 3D Formula 1 racing game on the C64. Certainly, I can't think of any that are going to beat it. I don't know many more there are. But it's the best one I've played by a mile. I mean, it's such a good, solid formula. It's all the things you wanted out of these games for so long. Detailed, all the detail that goes into it. The graphics are really good. The sound's brilliant. The opening title music is really good. Controls are exactly as they need to be. Really responsive. I like the fact that you've got acceleration in the corners of the joystick. So it's not just up to accelerate, down to decelerate. You can accelerate and decelerate as you're going round a bend. I mean, come on. It's really responsive. It's really, really fast 3D. And it's 3D that makes sense contextually. So it's not, it is better. They've obviously upped the ante on the test drive and things like that. It's not like that. It's so much more than that. Mm-hmm. The tracks are really good. They're accurate versions of the actual tracks. You've got maps, Adrian. Maps. So you can see what's coming. You've even got signs on the track which tell you which speeds you need to be at for the kind of corners on the practice laps and things. It is a really brilliant package of stuff. Now, as well as if that wasn't good enough, the 128 version of this had more enhanced features as well, ran slightly faster as well, so it used more of the C64 128 power. So there was that. So if you did have a 128, you got a more enhanced version of it, which is really good. And oddly, this completely passed me by when I had a C64. Never even came across it. So this was a real breath of fresh air. Genuinely brilliant. Really enjoyed playing this. Loved the music. Loved the ability to practice and get better at it, which you can do. Yeah. You actually feel like you're getting better. I like the fact that you can set your lap count and things like that. When you choose the tracks, you choose the car. The cars are actually handling differently as well.
Yep.
So it's not like they're just the same car with the different colours. Rear view mirrors, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Rear view mirrors. So much attention to detail. They've really, really thought about it, like they did with that boxing game that we saw, like they've done with every game. They thought about it. They thought, right, you know what? Let's do all these things right. I still can't get over angle-based acceleration, deceleration, because it felt like I was able to finally head into a corner, slow down while I was doing that, get into the sort of sharp part of the corner and then accelerate out of the bend. And it felt like I was actually getting better at one of these games. And it's honestly, I've never really liked them because I could never really find a way to navigate those bends properly. I just found myself flying off them all the time. Not with this one. I found myself really, really enjoying it. And also, of course, The sounds, they've managed to find the right pitch of the sound for the engine so it doesn't annoy you.
Yeah.
It sounds like a bloody Formula One engine. So it's genuinely good. I mean, come on. All of that stuff in this game, in this package, 79%. It's just robbing it of what it should be. This is easily a gold medal. Easily a gold medal for a game. I mean, it's outrageous. This is the most controversial percentage I think I've seen that should have been a gold medal since Where the Exploding Fist. Yeah. Which still pisses me off even now, let alone International Karate. So, but this one, out of all the games that really deserve to be a gold medal, based on, I mean, look at all those vector games that they brought out that got gold medals when they were slow, trudging vectors. This is filled fast track 3D. Now, this is doing it properly. None of your sludge speed nonsense. This is a really brilliant game for the C64, made by people that really cared about getting the best out of that machine. Genuinely really enjoyed this. And for those that want this kind of thing, if you want to play it and you don't want some of the loading on it, there's even an easy cart version created by the good old people at Hokuto Force. So you can even have a fast superload version if you want to.
Oh, is that cool? I'm going to get hold of that because I've enjoyed playing this.
Really good. I really found this refreshing, really well-engineered game. Some of the best coding of that kind it's about as good as it gets.
And you don't even you're not a big fan of racing games, are you? It's not like racing games are your bag.
No, and it's because I've always found them frustrating to control. This one finally seemed to get the balance of the controls right, and I was able to get round and start to feel like I could properly decelerate because I had, warning signs, and I just started to get into the spirit of the actual race of the game. And when you're in the race, by the way, it's pretty tense. For once, the cars aren't trying to ram you off the road or kill you. They're just trying to win the race. And so, and it plays like a proper racing game. And because it adheres to those things, I found it really compelling and I really enjoyed it. Really, really good this. Easily the best Formula One game that I played on the C64 by miles. This is the leaderboard of Formula One. This is, that just, if you're going to do it like this. An Accolade, well, they're just sealing the deal for me. I think they probably are now, in my mind, the greatest C64 game publishers that the 64 ever had. Because I cannot think, every game they are producing now, they are smashing it. This is brilliant. Best game I've played in ages. It made sludging through all that crap in April worth it to get that one at the end. What a brilliant game it is. Go and find a version of it. Go and play it. You won't regret it. It's brilliant. I really liked it.
Yeah, there we go. Who saw that coming? We should have looked in our wing mirrors and seen that coming up the inside. We might have known then.
But 79%, get lost.
Robbed. Do you know that?
Re-review it and do it properly.
Yeah, you got 90% in your Commodore. Games Machine gave it 47%.
What? Just go and do an egg.
I don't know. Yeah, something like that. I mean, yeah, I can only presume it's the only real failing being a diabolical loading system, it says in the review. Check out the disc version. I can imagine that the tape version was a bit of a pain.
Yeah, I can imagine that, and but Accolade probably, their heritage is, they do tape the tape version of it, but maybe it's just
we don't have to worry about that now.
Disc. Yeah. No, we don't.
No, we do not.
It's excellent. Excellent.
There you go. That's it. That's our 7 games for this week. That's April done. What did we look at? We looked at Blasteroids. Just asteroids. Just asteroids
with a B on it.
With a B on it. Yeah, a blur. Zone Trooper, which small acorns, other things grew, shall we say.
Yes.
The Munsters, frustrating.
No acorns grew. Many Munsters died to bring us that information.
True. There was a double bill in it of licensed crap because then we got Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yeah.
Dreadful. Then the surprisingly bland but okay mini golf, which should have really been a budget game. Orion, which was a budget game, but okay. And then the outstanding Grand Prix Circuit, which
mind-blowing,
clearly takes the podium this week, should we say?
Yes, absolutely.
Should we say? There we go. Right, well, as promised, we do have a crap Bert.
Oh, we do.
This is mostly for the top half because it's 2 in 1. Now, I don't know if that top one is called Tech or Zek.
But
it says
not easy to decipher, is it?
But it says 2 great blaster ups, and then it looks like the shittest version of Tron you've ever seen.
Yeah, it's a very cabaret version of Tron, isn't it?
What are those motorbikes?
I don't know. I think they're drawn by someone that's never seen one before.
Or has only seen, the Battlestar Galactica when they come to Earth.
Yeah, they have got a hint of that, haven't they? I think somebody said to him, make sure they've got handlebar moustaches, and that's what he's drawn.
I don't know what to make of this. So it says this is an Amiga's ST thing, but do you accept the challenge? I don't know. There's screenshots randomly placed. So this is the top half of this. There's what is that Gordian shaded ball tall thing just behind the bikes?
I think it's going to be a tower.
I don't know, but they're on some kind of bendy grid thing. I mean, look at the wheels on that front bike. I mean, I don't know what angle that is.
It's not a good one for that particular.
And he's got a spiky helmet that you can just make out.
Yeah, they have got, and they've got visors you can't see through, which is always it's a mistake on a motorbike.
Over.
Yeah, they're relying on the force, I think. There, I like the fact that they've got the tyres on those motorbikes looks like the kind of spare wheels you get for your 50-mile-an-hour spare in your car, your limpy spare. When you get a pop of your tyre pops and you only got your sort of emergency spare. They look like them. They look like scooter wheels.
This reminds me of a story I heard. Someone told me about an art teacher who went and. This is an art teacher who one of the students was drawing a car three-quarter from a three-quarter view. They're drawing this car, and they went up and they went, "No, you've drawn the wheel all wrong," and drew it flat. They rubbed it out and drew it flat. And the guy was like, "No, that's side on."
Yeah, let me help you there.
You know what perspective is?
Then he went to walk out the door and just walked out, slipped out sideways,
crabbed it out.
They're riding motorized fish essentially. I'm not sure what that's all about.
I don't know what it is. I mean, the bottom one is just I don't know. Is that a screen from the game? Alien Legion. Can you imagine?
I hope not.
It's 25 quid as well, and that top one's 20 quid.
Yeah, it does. That bottom one does look like that's the loading screen, doesn't it?
If we can't think of an advert, we're just going to stick it on. But we'll put the Alien Legion above the landscape for. Do you notice as well on the left? Somebody's taken credit for the layout.
I saw that. What does that say? Is that layout by
EMAP B and C?
EMAP. Oh dear, you wouldn't claim that.
You wouldn't, would you?
No, you wouldn't claim that. I like the way they've just got "and" in the middle. The "and" is like totally arbitrary. It's just like because I guess it's tech. I think is it? It must be a T. That's not a Z. But I mean, maybe. But it's
I don't know.
Tech or Zek. More likely tech, but Zek. And it's just and an Alien Legion done in that horrific way.
Yeah,
that's actually. The more I look at that, the more that definitely is a loading screen because that's how you would draw them on an Amiga. That's deluxe paint all the way. That is.
Yeah, and it's got some muscly guy looking. I don't know.
He looks pissed off. He looks like he's just. No, he honestly looks annoyed.
I think he's farted in his spacesuit.
He just look at his eyebrow and his eye angle. He looks really angry at something. He's like looking down, like for God's sake.
He's looking at that WTO Gainstar logo in the middle, which is some kind of terrible cutout map.
That's the face you pull when you are walking your dog and it does a poo and you realise you've got no poop bags to pick it up. You're like, not now. But it's too late. The dog started and there's no way back. But yeah, it's like that. That's his facial expression, not overly mentioning poop.
I did laugh when what is that like a motorbike helmet in the top left as well of the tech one? And there's another towery.
Just what is a rogue helmet just floating there, yeah. And I mean, look at that tech. Just on a note of the, I'm like with typefaces,
yeah.
But just we've got a bevel in there, and it's not a good one. A yellow bevel. I mean, isn't that a song by David Bowie?
The one he never released.
Yellow bevel.
Your font is a mess. Yellow bevel. This font is distressed.
Yes, so it's not good, is it? And the screenshots I like the way the screenshots of the game at the top are the same colour palette as the game at the bottom.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
But not in the spirit of the colours at the top.
But the screenshot of the game at the bottom looks like neither of them. It's like what looks like some kind of odd wizardy Dr. Zeus type creature.
And that Tower Ball and Cup thing you mentioned, that's just been thrown on there. They didn't think about perspective or anything when they did that.
Got a shadow.
It's just there. What's that? Oh, put that there. What is it? You don't need to know what that is. It's just, it's a giant microphone.
There's shadowing on it that's not consistent throughout the whole thing. And
do you realise inside of that how bright the lights would have to be inside there to shine out that brightly from the inside out? You'd be blind if you worked in that tower. That's it.
That's why they've got helmets on where you can't see through.
Yeah.
They've
yes,
just come out of that
world so bright.
Come out of that tower. Are we on motorbikes? I don't know. My bike's falling over.
I mean, it's clearly Tron light cycles, isn't it, of some description, but not in a good way.
The ones that look like I don't know. It also puts me in mind of the flying motorbikes thing, from flying things from Flash Gordon.
Yes, actually, yeah. And I'll tell you what, right? Of all the games, if you were going to make a game, of all the games that you don't need to make complicated, Tron Light Cycles is pretty uncomplicated. You can't really add complication to that, really. It's unnecessary.
It's Snake, isn't it?
Unnecessary. Yeah, it's just what I mean, but it's unnecessary. You don't need to make that into something. And I'm just looking at it on the right hand side. It looks like a very complicated map UI system for what is essentially Snake.
Yeah.
I'm sure you need that.
You don't need it. Well. No. There we go. That's your crap vote for this week. Well, this month. Nice to find one.
It is. It's always good.
Let's get to our charts from Commodore User. We'll go down from 10. New entry at number 10 is Pro Ski Simulator.
Oh, goodness me.
I know, that was dreadful. Down to number 9, Operation Wolf.
Okay.
Down to number 8 is Afterburner.
Okay.
News is spreading. Down to number 7 is Double Dragon. Good Lord. New in at number 5, joint in. So splitting the number 5 space, but both new in. You've got Emily Hughes' International Soccer. Yay.
Okay.
And Vec Le Mans. New in at number 4 is the In Crowd from Ocean. That's a compilation.
Yeah.
New in at number... I can imagine you get World Games. Number 3, new entry.
Budget price. Well, that's crazy for budget money.
£2 for World Games.
That's ridiculous. That's amazing.
Yeah. Down from number 1 to number 2 is RoboCop.
Ironically, it is, yeah.
And in at number 1 is Dragon Ninja.
Yeah.
Ocean having the most there with 4 games in the top 10. Pretty good.
Yeah.
What else we got? Ace 2 from Cascade at number 11. Micropro Soccer at number 12. Mm-hmm. Joe Blade 2 at number 13.
Oh, Headbutt Your Way to Glory, is it that one?
That's the kick one, and it's the jump kick.
The kick one, kick in the head. Yeah, you got a jump kicker in the head.
Jump kick. Tomcat, the great.
Okay, good.
At 14. New entry. Up to 15 is International Rugby Simulator.
Goodness me. Okay.
Haven't seen it. Budget re-release of Commando at number 16.
Okay.
International Speedway. You need a left turn at number 17. Football Manager 2 still sticking around at number 18. Bombjack down to number 19. And a new entry at number 20 is Batman. I thought that would have been higher.
I thought it probably will go higher. To be fair, the International Speedway entry there is the only game you can play with a broken joystick successfully.
That is true. I think the thing to think about Batman as well is that the film is not out yet. And Batman really wasn't massive until that film.
Yeah, it changed the sort of landscape for Batman, didn't it, completely?
Yeah, because just before then, Batman was the 60s, camp 60s stick thing. People in comic world knew of other Batman stuff, but it wasn't that big in the general gist of things back then.
And that version of Batman still adheres a little bit to the comic tradition of Batman, as opposed to the new movie Batman that was Michael Keaton's Batman that's imminently around the corner.
Which is the second Batman game we have this year coming up. There we go. Okay, that's it. That's April done. Saved at the end there by Grand Prix Circuit.
Wasn't it just?
Saved at the end. Saved by the bell. Saved by the wah of the Grand Prix thing. What we got coming up next month? Well, May. I think we've got 16 games in total for May. We have Ace 2088.
Okay.
It's the third Ace game.
I vaguely remember that one.
I don't remember it all. I think you're in space.
Okay.
Action Service. Action Forces are re-releases. Action Service. That sounds really crap, doesn't it? Action Service.
Doesn't sound exciting.
It sounds like a sort of care group.
Yeah.
Or something. Bomb Fusion.
Okay.
Don't know. Chicago 30s.
Okay, I'm not liking the sound of that, but okay.
The Deep.
Okay.
I don't know about that. F-14 Tomcat.
Another Tomcat game. Okay.
Yeah, F-14. I think that's a bit more simmy. Might even be vectors. I'm not sure. Could be wrong. Don't know.
Okay.
Gary Lineker's Hot Shot.
Oh, no. Gary, you happy?
He's back in Hot Shot form. Human Killing Machine.
Right, okay.
Journey to the Centre of the Earth.
Oh, okay.
Last Duel, which is another obscure arcade conversion, I think.
Okay.
Realm of the Trolls.
Never heard of that one.
The cover for next month, which is Renegade 3.
Okay.
I haven't actually played that one, so we'll see about that one. Run the Gauntlet.
Okay, remember that vaguely. Again,
could be okay. Silkworm.
So I remember Silkworm being quite good.
Yeah, it's a sizzler, so hopefully. Speed Zone.
That doesn't sound very good.
That's like 2 generic words, isn't it? You go through the speed zone. This is the fast part. It's essentially what it is, isn't it? Fast part.
It doesn't sound great, that.
No. Turbo Esprit. I remember that being really awful.
Yeah,
on the C64. I remember the Spectrum version was quite good, but the C64 one was bad, I think.
Going to be good, that, is it?
That's it.
Okay.
One I think we will look at, just briefly, just to give it a mention, because it gets a bit of a re-release, but it's Heavy Metal Paradroid.
Okay.
Normally we don't do sort of revisits, but I think that's...
Heavy Metal Paradroid? What's the difference
there? I think what Braybrook did is he's redone the graphics slightly to make them feel more chunky and metal.
Okay.
And it's also got the... because he did that re-release with the Iridium to do Paradroid Plus, didn't he, where he sort of sped it up, made the graphic, made it scroll smoother and things like that, and made it better. So I think it's that code base with a sort of slightly redone graphical style.
Oh, it'd be interesting to revisit that and have a look.
And it's re-released. It's re-released on budget. So it was a budget release. So budget release of Paradroid again is worth, that's amazing. Isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think we'll give that a quick sort of look. See, I think over the next. We've only got 16 games, so and that's it. Whew. That's it. That's 4 months done. 4 months of 1989 already through. Done. We are done.
Done and done.
We're moving to May next week. It's not. I don't know if it's been a great start to the year, really, has it? Overall?
No, it hasn't. And there was us hoping that we were going. This is our ramp up for the games, and then we start to ramp down, don't we? Sort of gradually now. But okay, like I think we've said, the mediocre games. There's a lot of those. There's a whole bunch of horrible licenses that have been really plaguing us. And then every now and again, it always seems Accolade seem to come up with the goods and manage to save the day. They've done that in March. They've done it in April.
Yeah,
and in March, not just Accolade, but it's certainly in April. I think they've really come at right at the last game of April. They've gone right. All you other games, take note. There's still life in this machine. Yeah,
and they don't. Not every Accolade game is a standout hit. It's not like everything. Like Fast Break was okay. Servant Volley had its bit of a problem, sort of thing, but they're generally of an above average quality. There's something in them, and I think that their hit rate throughout. I mean, if you go back to things like Hardball, PSI 5, Law of the West.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing really good that I can really remember from them is the Test Drive.
Yeah, it's the one that sticks out, isn't it? Test Drive. And then as we've gone through this, we've realised, there's some real corkers in there, the Train and things like that. Train, Ace of Aces. I think was Ace of Aces them. I think. Ace of Aces them. Yeah, that's them.
Yeah, I think they're the same people who did Desert Fox, although that wasn't released by them. But it's been an odd start to the year. But things we'll see how things progress and move on.
We will.
Yeah. So May is a 2-episode specials. I think it's 2 episodes for the rest of the year. We've done our multi-episode ones now. We're back down to 2 episodes for the rest because the number of games does drop. So there's not enough content, really, content
and that's the way it goes.
For it to be whatever. But just looking at some of the stuff coming up in the rest of the year. What's Forgotten World?
There's some. I was looking yesterday. Actually, there is some little gems in there as we go through. And the games are dying off, but there's a whole bunch now. We're now heading into really uncharted territory for me because it won't be long before I didn't own a C64 and I was well into my Amiga stuff. And so a lot of the games that I'll be playing will be, I'll have played the Amiga versions very likely, but I won't have ever played the C64 one. So
I think one of the last C64 games I remember playing would have probably been something like Tusker.
Yeah, I remember Tusker.
Myth. I remember Myth.
Yeah.
But they were very. I wasn't playing on it much anymore, and so I think Gary showed me them, and I was like, "Oh, that looks good."
Yeah,
but don't really remember much else. Certainly looking down. Power Drift. I remember the Power Drift version, but I think the rest of this year is going to be a voyage of discovery, shall we say? More so than we have done.
I think so.
There we go. And there we go. That's it. That's it for April. I think we're done. And I think we've had our outro chat. I think we just move into May next year. I've already said at the beginning how you can support us, so go do that. I think nothing is left to be said apart from I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Raddings.
And you have been listening to and we will see you again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zapped 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedthepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedthepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapToThe, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zapped 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.